In the depths of the ancient world, beyond the reach of mortal eyes, lies the eternal kingdom of Poseidon, the mighty god of the sea. A figure both revered and feared, Poseidon's power stretched across the vast oceans, where calm waves and violent storms alike obeyed his will. As one of the Olympian gods, he was a force that shaped not only the waters, but also the very foundations of the earth itself. From his birth to his lasting legacy, the story of Poseidon weaves through the fabric of Greek mythology, touching lives and lands with a presence that endures across time. As we journey through his myth, we will explore the vast, endless depths of his reign. From his origins as the son of Cronus to the powerful god who rules the sea. With each gentle wave and stormy gust, Poseidon's story unfolds, inviting us to drift into a world where myth and history converge in serene harmony. If you find peace in the soothing rhythms of the sea, like, subscribe, and share where you're listening from. Let the tale of Poseidon guide you into a deep, restful sleep as we begin our journey into the heart of the ocean. In the beginning, before the vast and endless sea could be tamed, there was only the deep, mysterious void of the primordial world. From this emptiness arose the first gods, and among them Poseidon emerged as one of the most powerful. He was born to Cronus, the Titan ruler, and Rhea, the goddess of fertility, in a time before the land was settled and before the earth had fully taken form. Poseidon, along with his siblings, Zeus, Hades, Hera, Demeter, and Hestia, was destined for greatness. However, his path was not a straightforward one. Cronus, fearful of a prophecy that foretold his downfall at the hands of his children, did what many tyrants have done in myth. He devoured them. One by one, Cronus swallowed each of his newborn children, ensuring that they would never threaten his reign. Poseidon, still an infant, was swallowed whole, along with his siblings. But Rhea, devastated by the loss of her children, was not willing to let them disappear into the belly of the beast. She devised a clever plan to save them. When she gave birth to Zeus, the youngest of her children, she hid him away from Cronus, replacing him with a stone wrapped in swaddling cloth. Cronus, oblivious to the deception, devoured the stone and left Zeus to grow in secret. Years passed, and Zeus came of age, ready to confront his father and free his siblings. With the help of Metis, the goddess of wisdom, Zeus tricked Cronus into regurgitating the children he had swallowed, one by one. First came Hestia, then Hera, Demeter, and finally Poseidon and Hades, who had been trapped in the darkness of Cronus's belly, waiting for their moment of release. The emergence of the gods from Cronus marked the beginning of a new era. Once freed, the siblings joined forces with Zeus to overthrow their father and the Titans, a battle that would become known as the Titanomachy, the war between the gods and the old order. But before the war could truly begin, the brothers Poseidon, Hades, and Zeus would face a momentous decision: how to divide the world among them. In the aftermath of their victory, Poseidon was granted dominion over the sea. This vast, mysterious realm became his alone, a domain so powerful and unpredictable that it would forever shape the lives of mortals and gods alike. The sea became both a source of life and destruction, a reflection of Poseidon's own volatile and untamable nature. As Poseidon took his place as the god of the sea, his siblings also assumed their respective roles. Zeus became the king of the heavens, while Hades claimed the underworld. Each god governed their realm, but Poseidon's domain, stretching across the oceans and the vast expanse of water, remained uniquely his. From his deep, endless kingdom, Poseidon ruled with an authority that commanded both fear and awe. Poseidon's birth and release from Cronus's grasp are not only the foundation of his story, but also a powerful symbol of the enduring strength of the gods. Like the sea itself, Poseidon's journey began in the depths, in the quiet stillness of the water. But his power would ripple outward, shaping everything it touched. As the god of the sea, Poseidon's realm was not limited to the gentle waters that touched the shores, but extended to the farthest reaches of the deep, to the monstrous waves that could rise up without warning, and to the calm, serene waters where sailors sought peace and hope. The waters were his to command, and all who ventured upon them were subject to his moods and whims. And so, from the moment he was freed from his father's grasp, Poseidon was destined to rule the waters. His trident, the symbol of his power, became a tool not only of control, but of creation. It was with this mighty weapon that Poseidon would shape the seas, summon storms, and ensure that no one would ever forget the presence of the sea god. In the years that followed, Poseidon's power continued to grow. He was revered by sailors who relied on the sea for their livelihood, and by kings and emperors who sought his favor. But Poseidon's gifts were not always given freely. His temper was as unpredictable as the ocean itself. To gain his favor, mortals would make offerings and sacrifices, hoping to appease the god whose moods could change with the tides. The stories of Poseidon's early reign are filled with moments of wonder and terror. In one myth, Poseidon is said to have created the first horse from the waves, a creature as wild and free as the god himself. The horse, a gift to the mortal world, would become a symbol of Poseidon's connection to the earth and its creatures, reinforcing the bond between land and sea. But as much as Poseidon's rule brought gifts, it also brought challenges. His domain, vast and powerful, was not without its dangers. The creatures of the sea, many of them wild and untamable, looked to him for guidance and protection. The sea was as much a reflection of his nature as it was a force of its own. It was in this environment that Poseidon would begin to forge his identity as a god not only of creation, but also of destruction. The story of Poseidon's birth and rise is one of release from captivity, of the reclamation of power that had been denied to him. It marks the beginning of a long and turbulent journey, one that would carry Poseidon through countless adventures, conflicts, and relationships. His journey is not just one of triumph, but also of moments of inner conflict, moments when the very nature of his power would be called into question. Yet, as we drift further into Poseidon's story, we will see that his rule over the sea was not just about domination. It was about balance between calm and storm, life and death, creation and destruction. Poseidon's reign over the ocean mirrors the unpredictable nature of the waters themselves, a realm where no one could ever predict what would come next. The Titanomachy, the great war between the Olympian gods and the Titans, was a cataclysmic event that reshaped the world. It was a battle of celestial proportions, fought not only for dominion over the earth, but for the very fate of the cosmos itself. In this conflict, Poseidon stood as a key player, his power essential to the victory of the Olympians. When Cronus, the tyrannical Titan who had swallowed his children, was overthrown by his own offspring, a new age began to dawn. But this victory did not come easily. The gods, led by Zeus, had to face the wrath of the Titans, who were determined to keep their grip on the universe. For 10 long years, the Olympians and Titans waged a brutal war, with the balance of power shifting like the tides that Poseidon ruled over. Zeus, the youngest and most powerful of the Olympian gods, was the leader of the rebellion against Cronus. Alongside him stood Hades, the god of the underworld, and Poseidon, god of the sea. The three brothers would form a triumvirate that would divide the world between them. But before they could claim their domains, they needed to defeat the Titans, whose immense strength seemed insurmountable. In the early stages of the war, the Olympians were at a disadvantage. They were outnumbered, and the Titans were formidable opponents. The Titans, led by Cronus, were ancient and powerful beings, much larger and stronger than the gods. The battle raged across the earth, from the mountains to the seas, and even into the very heavens. It seemed as though the Titans might prevail, their strength overwhelming the gods' resolve. However, the tide of the war began to turn when the Olympians sought the help of the Cyclopes and the Hecatoncheires. The Cyclopes were master blacksmiths, skilled in the creation of powerful weapons, and the Hecatoncheires were giant beings with 100 hands, whose strength could rival that of the Titans themselves. These allies, once imprisoned by Cronus, were freed by Zeus and joined the fight against the Titans. With these newfound allies, the Olympians gained the upper hand. The Cyclopes forged mighty weapons for the gods, a thunderbolt for Zeus, a helm of darkness for Hades, and a trident for Poseidon. The trident, a symbol of Poseidon's mastery over the seas, would become his weapon of choice, capable of striking down enemies with the force of the oceans themselves. With his trident in hand, Poseidon joined the battle, his power over the sea and storms becoming a key factor in the gods' success. Poseidon's role in the Titanomachy was not only as a warrior, but also as a god who commanded the very elements of nature. The seas, stirred by his anger, became turbulent and unyielding. The waves crashed against the Titans with the fury of 1,000 storms. Poseidon's mastery over the ocean allowed him to summon tidal waves and whirlpools, which drowned the armies of the Titans and turned the tide of battle in favor of the Olympians. The war reached its climax when Zeus and his allies launched a final decisive assault on the Titans. In a great battle atop Mount Othrys, the Titans' stronghold, the Olympians struck the final blow. The Titans were defeated, and many were cast into the depths of Tartarus, the dark abyss beneath the earth where they would remain imprisoned for all eternity. With the Titans vanquished, the world was divided. Poseidon, Hades, and Zeus each claimed their dominions, the seas, the underworld, and the heavens, respectively. This division was not only a reflection of the brothers' individual strengths, but also a symbol of their new roles in the cosmic order. Poseidon's domain was the vast, untamable oceans, a realm that would forever be shaped by his power. The Titanomachy marked a turning point in the mythology of Poseidon. No longer merely the son of Cronus, Poseidon had proven himself a key figure in the overthrow of the Titans. His role in the war cemented his place as one of the most powerful of the Olympian gods, his strength and authority now recognized by all. The war had not only freed the gods from the tyranny of the Titans, but had also solidified Poseidon's control over the seas. This victory was bittersweet, however. The battle had left the world scarred, and the earth would never be the same. The seas, once calm and serene, now churned with the power of Poseidon's anger, and the gods, having won their freedom, found themselves forever bound to the domains they had claimed. In the aftermath of the war, Poseidon's reputation as a god of great power and unpredictability was solidified. His trident, a symbol of his dominion over the sea, became an emblem of his victory and strength. The Cyclopes, who had aided the gods in their time of need, returned to their forges, leaving behind a world that was now under the rule of the Olympian gods. Poseidon's role in the Titanomachy also highlighted his connection to the natural world. The sea, a realm that no mortal could truly tame, was his to command. His power was as boundless as the oceans themselves, and his influence would shape the fate of the world for centuries to come. His victory in the war was not just a triumph of strength, but also a triumph of the natural forces that he ruled over. The Titanomachy and Poseidon's role in it would become a defining moment in his mythological journey. It was a battle that brought the gods to their highest power and set the stage for the conflicts and stories that would follow. Poseidon, with his trident in hand, stood as a reminder of the vast, untamable forces of nature, a god who could both create and destroy with a single wave of his hand. Once the dust of the Titanomachy had settled and the world had been divided between the three powerful brothers, Zeus, Hades, and Poseidon, the god of the sea claimed the vast, uncharted waters as his own. From the sky above to the earth below, Poseidon's realm stretched across the oceans, rivers, and all bodies of water. His domain was as boundless as the very seas themselves, ever-changing, unpredictable, and wild. Poseidon's authority over the sea was absolute. As the god of the ocean, he controlled the tides, the waves, and the storms that could either nurture or destroy. The sea was a reflection of his nature, both calming and tempestuous, gentle at times, and violently powerful at others. His trident, a gift forged by the Cyclopes during the Titanomachy, was the symbol of his dominion. With it, Poseidon could stir the seas into fury or calm them to a peaceful stillness. It is said that Poseidon's palace was located deep beneath the waves, hidden from mortal eyes in the darkest depths of the ocean. This palace, constructed of coral and precious jewels, was a place of serene beauty, a kingdom where Poseidon ruled over all creatures of the sea. The palace was not merely a residence, but a reflection of Poseidon's power, a majestic home that gleamed with the same mysterious allure that the sea itself held. Poseidon was not alone in his realm. His consort, Amphitrite, the queen of the sea, shared the vast, watery kingdom with him. Amphitrite, a sea goddess of great beauty, was the daughter of Nereus, the ancient god of the sea, and Doris, an ocean nymph. In many ways, Amphitrite mirrored her husband. She was as calm and soothing as the tranquil waters, yet as formidable as the fiercest storm. Together, Poseidon and Amphitrite ruled over the myriad creatures of the sea. Their children, such as Triton, the merman who served as Poseidon's herald, were born from their union and helped carry out the god's will. Triton, with his conch shell horn, could summon the sea creatures and command the tides, much like his father, embodying the harmony of the sea with both its gentle and violent forces. Poseidon's control over the seas extended far beyond his palace and family. He commanded the waves and the winds, making him an influential god to sailors and fishermen. To the ancient Greeks, the sea was both a means of travel and trade, as well as a source of danger and mystery. Thus, Poseidon's favor was essential to those who relied on the oceans. A voyage could be peaceful one day and perilous the next, depending on Poseidon's mood. The gods of the sea were as unpredictable as the waves themselves. To gain Poseidon's favor, mortals would often offer sacrifices. Sailors would make offerings of fish, wine, and incense to ensure safe passage through the treacherous waters. If Poseidon was pleased, the seas would remain calm and the ship would sail unhindered. But if angered, Poseidon could unleash storms, shipwrecks, and tidal waves that would drown entire fleets. Despite his fearsome reputation, Poseidon was not without a sense of justice. He often intervened in the affairs of mortals, whether to aid those in need or to punish those who transgressed. One of the most famous myths illustrating Poseidon's role as a protector of the seas is the story of the Trojan War. As one of the gods who supported the Greeks, Poseidon used his powers to ensure that the seas remained favorable for their journeys. However, when the Greeks failed to offer proper sacrifices, Poseidon turned against them, sending forth storms that delayed their fleet's departure. Poseidon's ability to manipulate the sea also made him a powerful force in warfare. In many myths, he was called upon to create or calm the waters in order to influence the outcome of a battle. His role as the god of horses, too, linked him to the land, and he was often associated with the creation of chariots and steeds that could carry warriors into battle. Yet, Poseidon's realm was not only a source of destruction, but also one of creation. The sea was a place of constant movement and change, where new lands could rise from the depths and where lost treasures could be found. Poseidon was not only a destroyer of ships and cities, but also a creator of life. From the waters of the ocean, he brought forth creatures both wondrous and terrifying, sea monsters like the kraken and the hydra, and creatures of beauty like dolphins and fish. Poseidon's influence over the sea also extended to freshwater bodies. Rivers, lakes, and springs were all part of his domain, and the gods of these waters often answered to him. In some versions of his myth, Poseidon is said to have created rivers by striking the earth with his trident, bringing forth water to nourish the land. In other myths, he was the god responsible for creating the first horses, a symbol of the wild, untamed nature of the sea. For all his power, Poseidon was not without his struggles. The sea, like the god who ruled over it, was full of contradictions. While it could provide sustenance and life, it could also take it away in an instant. Poseidon's power was a reflection of the sea's dual nature, beautiful and serene one moment, violent and unpredictable the next. In his dominion over the sea, Poseidon became more than just a god of water. He became a symbol of the natural world itself. His reign represented the balance of nature, the harmony of life and death, creation and destruction, order and chaos. The sea, with its depth, mystery, and power, was his domain, and in it Poseidon found his purpose. As the god of the sea, Poseidon was worshipped across the ancient world. Cities along the coastlines, such as Corinth and Delphi, erected temples in his honor, where sailors and fishermen would come to offer their prayers and sacrifices. His power was respected and feared, and his presence in the lives of mortals was a constant reminder of the vast and untamable forces of nature. Through Poseidon's rule over the seas, the ancient Greeks came to understand the unpredictable and ever-changing nature of the world around them. The sea was both a source of livelihood and a force of destruction, and Poseidon was its master. His power, like the ocean itself, was boundless and eternal, an ever-present force in the lives of mortals and gods alike. While Poseidon is primarily known as the god of the sea, his domain extends beyond the waters to the very heart of the earth itself. One of the more unexpected aspects of Poseidon's rule is his deep and lasting connection to horses, creatures that roam the land rather than the seas. This connection reveals a different side of Poseidon's power, linking him not only to the ocean but to the forces of nature that shape the earth. The story of Poseidon and horses begins with the myth of his creation of the first horse. According to legend, Poseidon was deeply enamored with the beauty and power of horses, and so he set his mind to creating a creature that would embody the wild, untamable spirit of the sea. Using his trident, Poseidon struck the earth, and from that strike sprang the first horse, a magnificent, powerful creature that galloped freely across the land. In some versions of the myth, it is said that the first horse was created as a gift for the goddess Demeter, the goddess of the harvest. Demeter, who had been searching for her daughter Persephone, was so moved by the horse that she accepted it, and from there, horses became part of the natural world. But Poseidon's role in the creation of the horse extended beyond just one gift. Horses became an enduring symbol of his power, representing both the ocean's raw strength and the land's beauty. The connection between Poseidon and horses is not limited to the creation myth. Poseidon is also associated with chariots, a powerful symbol of warfare and victory. The ancient Greeks often depicted Poseidon as a god who rode a chariot drawn by horses, much like other gods such as Zeus and Apollo. These chariots, which were sometimes depicted as being pulled by horses of incredible strength, represented Poseidon's ability to control both land and sea. In many myths, Poseidon is shown as the patron god of horses and the protector of those who relied on these magnificent animals. He was especially revered by those who worked with horses, such as chariot drivers, farmers, and warriors, who saw in him a powerful figure whose influence extended over both the seas and the land. Poseidon's horses were often seen as symbols of his own untamable nature, as wild and unpredictable as the ocean itself. They were creatures of great strength and beauty, capable of inspiring both awe and fear in those who witnessed them. However, Poseidon's connection to horses was not always a peaceful one. Like the sea, which could turn from calm to violent in the blink of an eye, Poseidon's horses also embodied both creation and destruction. In one myth, Poseidon was said to have gifted the people of Troy with a great wooden horse, an enormous hollow creation that would later become the vessel of the Greeks' trickery and deceit during the Trojan War. The wooden horse, which had been imbued with the power of Poseidon's influence, became a symbol of both his generosity and his ability to bring about unexpected consequences. In the Trojan War, Poseidon's role as a protector of the Greeks was made clear when he aided the Greek forces in their battle against the Trojans. Despite his alliance with the Greeks, Poseidon was not afraid to punish those who did not show him proper respect. In one episode, when the Greeks failed to offer the necessary sacrifices to Poseidon, he sent forth a great storm that hindered their progress. The lesson was clear. Poseidon's power extended over both the waters and the land, and to anger him was to face the wrath of nature itself. Beyond the battlefields and the seas, Poseidon's horses also found a place in the everyday lives of mortals. As the god of horses, Poseidon was called upon to bless the horses of noble families, those who relied on them for transportation, agriculture, and warfare. In the ancient Greek world, Horses were seen as symbols of status and wealth, and it was believed that those who had Poseidon's favor would enjoy the finest horses, those with unmatched strength, speed, and beauty. These horses, said to have been blessed by Poseidon, were prized possessions, and their owners often made offerings to the god to ensure their horses remained in peak condition. Despite Poseidon's association with horses, however, there were also times when the god's temper was roused by the creatures he had created. In the myth of the contest for the city of Athens, Poseidon's pride was wounded when the Athenians chose Athena's gift of the olive tree over his own gift of the horse. Enraged by this slight, Poseidon retaliated by causing floods and drowning the plains of Attica, showing that even the gentlest of creatures could carry the wrath of the sea god when angered. The horse, in many ways, came to symbolize both Poseidon's greatness and his uncontrollable nature. The magnificent creatures were his creation, his gift to the earth. And yet they were also a reflection of the unpredictability of the sea. Like the waves that crash upon the shore, horses could be both serene and violent, graceful and wild. Throughout history, Poseidon's connection to horses persisted. In art and literature, he continued to be depicted as a god who commanded not only the seas, but also the land, where horses ran free. His image as a charioteer riding across the sky or across the earth became a powerful symbol of his power and his ability to control both the natural world and the creatures that inhabited it. For the ancient Greeks, Poseidon's connection to horses was not merely about the creatures themselves, but about the broader forces of nature that they represented. Horses, like the sea, could be both a source of life and a force of destruction. In this way, Poseidon's relationship with horses mirrored his relationship with the oceans, beautiful, powerful, and capable of both creation and destruction. Beneath the surface of the world, hidden from mortal sight, lies the vast and mysterious realm of Poseidon, the god of the sea's magnificent underwater kingdom. Far from the eyes of men, Poseidon's domain stretches across the depths of the oceans, a place where the ebb and flow of the tides reign supreme, and where creatures of great wonder and terror reside. Here, Poseidon rules not only as a god, but as the eternal master of an environment that is as unpredictable and enigmatic as the god himself. This underwater kingdom, often described as both a place of serene beauty and dangerous intrigue, is where Poseidon retreats when he is not commanding the waves or controlling the winds. His palace, located at the very bottom of the sea, is said to be constructed of coral and precious gems, a glittering beacon in the darkest depths. This ethereal palace, fashioned from the very elements of the ocean, reflects Poseidon's power and his deep connection to the seas. While the palace itself is a place of grand beauty, it is also a reflection of Poseidon's ability to command and shape the elements. In his underwater realm, Poseidon is not just a ruler, but a creator. He shapes the waters and the creatures that inhabit them, controlling the forces of nature with his trident, a symbol of his undying influence over the sea. From the swarming schools of fish to the mighty sea serpents that glide through the deep, Poseidon's kingdom is teeming with life, much of it fierce and untamable. In Poseidon's underwater domain, one can find a myriad of sea creatures, from the most beautiful to the most terrifying. Dolphins, the creatures of the sea most closely associated with Poseidon, are often seen swimming around his palace, offering their songs as a reminder of the god's benevolent side. However, the seas are also home to the more monstrous creatures under Poseidon's command. The deadly kraken, the horrifying hydra, and countless other creatures born from the god's will. These creatures embody the dual nature of the sea itself, both nurturing and destructive. Poseidon's power over his underwater kingdom extends beyond the realm of creatures. He also controls the currents and tides that shape the world above. The ebb and flow of the seas are a reflection of his moods. When Poseidon is calm, the waters may be still and tranquil, offering sailors smooth sailing and peaceful voyages. But when angered, Poseidon can summon the ferocious storms and crushing waves that can engulf entire ships, forcing mortals to pay heed to his temper. It is said that Poseidon's presence in the depths is not merely one of dominion, but also of creativity. The oceans, vast and untamed, are a reflection of the god's own volatile nature, where calm and chaos coexist in a delicate balance. From the deep trenches of the sea to the shallower shores, Poseidon's influence is felt. He is the guardian of the oceans, protecting its creatures while also commanding them. His power is not limited to the surface waters. Even the deepest trenches are under his control. In the myths, Poseidon's kingdom is not a solitary one. His queen, Amphitrite, reigns alongside him in the palace. Amphitrite, a goddess of the sea, is often depicted as a serene and graceful figure, a counterpart to Poseidon's more tempestuous nature. Together, they form the perfect balance, with Poseidon representing the untamable forces of the ocean, while Amphitrite embodies its calm and nurturing side. Their union, like the ocean itself, reflects the harmonious coexistence of power and tranquility. Despite Poseidon's vast domain, the underwater kingdom is not a place of mere luxury or calmness. It is also a realm of constant movement, where the sea itself is in a perpetual state of flux. The tides rise and fall, currents shift, and creatures swim through the water, each playing their role in the great cycle of life beneath the waves. Poseidon's kingdom is both a place of creation and destruction, much like the ocean that mirrors his moods. His kingdom, then, is not a static place, but one that changes with the seasons, the tides, and the whims of the god himself. Poseidon's control over his underwater kingdom extends not just to the creatures that live there, but to the very landscape of the sea. The god shapes the oceans, creating new islands and sinking them beneath the waves with the power of his trident. The oceans, as vast and unpredictable as they are Poseidon's to command, and no mortal or god can truly understand the full scope of his power. The sea, like Poseidon himself, is an enigma, beautiful and dangerous, calming and violent. Beyond the natural beauty and awe-inspiring forces of the sea, Poseidon's underwater realm is a place of mystery. The depths of the ocean are still largely unknown to mortals, and Poseidon's kingdom is no different. It is a place where secrets lie hidden, where the unknown reigns supreme, and where the very fabric of reality can shift and change without warning. The creatures that inhabit Poseidon's realm are often strange and surreal, defying human understanding. From the giant sea monsters that lurk in the darkest trenches to the shimmering fish that dart between the coral, Poseidon's kingdom is home to wonders and dangers alike. For mortals, Poseidon's underwater kingdom was both a source of awe and fear. The ancient Greeks understood the sea as both a giver of life and a bringer of death. In their minds, Poseidon was both a protector and a destroyer, the god who could offer smooth sailing or drown entire fleets. To encounter Poseidon's domain was to confront the very essence of the unknown, vast, unpredictable, and unyielding. In the end, Poseidon's underwater kingdom is a reflection of the god himself, powerful, mysterious, and forever changing. It is a place where creation and destruction coexist, where calm waters can turn into violent storms, and where the forces of nature are ever at play. His kingdom, hidden beneath the waves, is a testament to Poseidon's power and his eternal influence over the seas. Among the many tales of rivalry and competition among the gods, the story of Poseidon and Athena's contest for the city of Athens stands out as one of the most significant. The myth reveals much about the nature of the gods and the human qualities that the Greeks held dear. This contest, where both gods sought to claim the city as their own, was not only about power and prestige, but also about the values that would define Athens, and, by extension, the world of the ancient Greeks. Athena and Poseidon were both eager to offer their gifts to the people of Athens. In a time when the city was still in its infancy, the people sought a patron god who would protect them and guide their future. Both Poseidon and Athena, representing opposing but complementary forces, stood ready to offer the city their favor. Poseidon, as the god of the sea, struck first. With a mighty wave of his trident, he struck the ground, and from the earth sprang forth a saltwater spring. This gift, though powerful, was not as immediately useful as Poseidon had hoped. The saltwater spring, though a reminder of his dominion over the seas, was not suitable for drinking, and the Athenians quickly realized that it lacked the practical benefits they sought. Nevertheless, Poseidon's show of strength was awe-inspiring, and his connection to the mighty oceans was undeniable. In many ways, Poseidon's offering symbolized the raw, untamed forces of nature, powerful, unpredictable, and capable of both creation and destruction. Then came Athena's turn. As the goddess of wisdom and craft, Athena approached the contest with a different kind of offering. Instead of showing raw power, she gave the Athenians something more practical, a gift that would sustain them and help their civilization thrive. Athena, using her divine wisdom, caused the first olive tree to grow from the earth. The olive tree, with its nourishing fruit and valuable wood, provided the Athenians with a resource that would sustain them for generations. The olive tree became a symbol of peace, prosperity, and wisdom, values that Athena herself embodied. The Athenians, impressed by Athena's gift, chose her as their patron god. The olive tree, which would become central to Athenian life and economy, would grow and flourish, feeding the people and giving them a sense of stability and continuity. The olive tree also symbolized the peaceful and productive nature of Athens, qualities that would define the city for centuries to come. Poseidon, despite his powerful show of strength, was not pleased with the outcome of the contest. His anger was not just a reflection of his pride, but also of the way he had been dismissed in favor of Athena's more practical gift. In many ways, Poseidon's saltwater spring, though impressive, represented the volatile and unpredictable forces of nature, while Athena's olive tree embodied the qualities of wisdom, cultivation, and peace, values that were highly prized in Athenian society. In his anger, Poseidon sought revenge on the city. According to one version of the myth, Poseidon caused floods to ravage the land, a reminder of the power of the sea and its unpredictable nature. His wrath was a symbol of the consequences of angering the gods, especially one as powerful as Poseidon. The flood was also a reminder that while Poseidon had lost the contest, he was still a force to be reckoned with, a god whose mood could change as swiftly as the tides. Despite the wrath Poseidon unleashed, Athena's wisdom prevailed, and the olive tree continued to grow, becoming a central part of Athenian identity. The olive tree, in many ways, became a symbol of the city's enduring strength and wisdom, a gift that would sustain generations of Athenians and allow the city to flourish as a cultural and intellectual hub in the ancient world. Athens, under the protection of Athena, would rise to prominence, becoming the birthplace of democracy, philosophy, and art. The myth of Poseidon and Athena's contest is one of the many examples of how the gods interacted with humans and shaped their destinies. In this case, the story not only explains the origin of the olive tree in Athens, but also highlights the values that the Athenians held dear: wisdom, peace, and practicality, qualities that Athena embodied. Poseidon's loss in the contest is a reflection of the Greek understanding of the balance between power and wisdom. While raw strength, like Poseidon's, could be awe-inspiring and destructive, it was ultimately the wisdom of Athena that proved more beneficial to the people of Athens. For Poseidon, the loss was a blow to his pride, but it also showcased the complexity of his character. As the god of the sea, Poseidon was a figure of immense power and authority. Yet he was also capable of pride, anger, and retaliation. His contest with Athena reminds us that the gods, despite their divine status, were not immune to human emotions or flaws. Poseidon's actions, both in his offering and his subsequent anger, reflect the complexities of his nature, both the calm and the storm, the nurturing and the destructive. Athena, on the other hand, emerges from the contest as the patroness of Athens, symbolizing the values of peace, wisdom, and prosperity. Her victory, however, does not diminish Poseidon's power or influence. Rather, it highlights the different paths to greatness that the gods took. Poseidon, the god of the untamable sea, may not have won the city of Athens, but he remains an indomitable force in the world of gods and men. This myth, though often remembered for its rivalry, ultimately teaches the Athenians, and us, a lesson in the balance of strength and wisdom. It reminds us that while power can shape the world, it is wisdom that often ensures its survival. As the god of the sea, Poseidon was no stranger to the forces of love and desire. Yet, while he had many lovers throughout the ages, one of the most significant and enduring relationships in his mythological story was with Amphitrite, the queen of the sea. Their marriage, though at times filled with challenges and complexities, would come to symbolize the union of power and beauty, creation and balance. Amphitrite was a Nereid, one of the sea nymphs, daughter of Nereus and Doris. Known for her ethereal beauty and grace, she was one of the most sought-after goddesses in the sea, beloved by both mortals and immortals. However, unlike many of her fellow Nereids, Amphitrite was not immediately captivated by Poseidon's advances. In fact, she was initially reluctant to marry him, preferring to live free in the depths of the sea rather than be tied to the god of the oceans. Poseidon, who was used to commanding both the seas and the hearts of those around him, was not easily deterred. He sought out Amphitrite, sending a messenger, the dolphin, to find her and convince her to become his bride. The dolphin, whose graceful and powerful presence on the seas reflected Poseidon's own might, found Amphitrite and offered her Poseidon's marriage proposal. Despite her initial reluctance, Amphitrite eventually yielded to Poseidon's advances, and the two were wed in a magnificent ceremony. The wedding, which took place in Poseidon's underwater palace, was attended by numerous sea gods and goddesses, as well as the many creatures of the ocean. The union of Poseidon and Amphitrite marked not only the consolidation of their power, but also the balance between Poseidon's fierce, untamable nature and Amphitrite's calm, nurturing qualities. Together, they ruled the seas with wisdom and strength. Their marriage was not without its challenges. Poseidon, as the god of the sea, was often embroiled in conflicts and rivalries with other gods and mortals. His temper, as unpredictable as the ocean itself, sometimes led to tensions between him and Amphitrite. Nevertheless, their union remained strong, with Amphitrite serving as a stabilizing force for Poseidon, calming his stormy nature when it threatened to consume him. From their union came children, the most notable of whom was Triton, the merman who would serve as Poseidon's herald and messenger. Triton was depicted as a figure of great power, often shown blowing a conch shell to summon the waves or calm the seas. His role in Poseidon's kingdom reflected the harmonious relationship between his parents, Poseidon, the god of strength and destruction, and Amphitrite, the goddess of calm and serenity. Together, they balanced each other's forces, creating a harmonious rule over the seas. Amphitrite's influence over Poseidon was significant. Though Poseidon was a god of immense power, his relationship with his wife revealed a softer side to him, one that was shaped by love and companionship. Amphitrite was not just a passive figure in Poseidon's life. She actively contributed to the order of the seas. As the queen of the ocean, she had authority over the other Nereids and sea creatures, who looked to her for guidance. Her presence in Poseidon's realm brought a sense of calm and order amidst the ever-changing and unpredictable nature of the sea. There are also myths that depict Amphitrite in a more active role, helping Poseidon in times of conflict. For example, in the famous myth of the Titanomachy, when Poseidon fought alongside his brothers, Zeus and Hades, against the Titans, it was Amphitrite who helped guide and protect him. Though Poseidon's battles were often with the forces of nature or other gods, Amphitrite's presence was always a grounding force, a reminder that even the most powerful god could not rule alone. In this sense, their marriage was a partnership, one that showcased the necessity of balance in the divine order. Poseidon's love for Amphitrite also highlights the importance of family in Greek mythology. The Olympian gods, despite their immense power, often faced personal struggles that reflected the human experience. Poseidon's relationship with Amphitrite mirrored the struggles and joys of any marriage: love, conflict, compromise, and growth. Their bond, much like the ocean itself, was not one of static perfection, but one of constant change, filled with both tranquility and turbulence. However, not all was harmonious in Poseidon and Amphitrite's relationship. Poseidon, being a god of great passion, had numerous other relationships, and Amphitrite, though loyal, was not always pleased with her husband's wandering ways. Yet, despite these occasional quarrels, their relationship endured, as the sea itself endures, forever in motion, yet always rooted in the same eternal force. The story of Poseidon and Amphitrite also speaks to the power of love and loyalty in the divine world. Though Poseidon's nature could be as fierce and unpredictable as the ocean, his connection to Amphitrite softened his edges, allowing him to create and protect life within his domain. Amphitrite, with her wisdom and grace, served as a counterbalance to Poseidon's often overwhelming force. Together, they formed a partnership that helped maintain the delicate balance of the natural world. In the end, Poseidon and Amphitrite's marriage was not only a union of power and beauty, but a reflection of the complexities of love and the necessity of balance in the world. Their reign over the seas, though occasionally marked by conflict, was one of harmony and strength. The ocean, with all its unpredictability, remained under the rule of two gods whose forces complemented each other: Poseidon's power and Amphitrite's grace. Poseidon's influence extended far beyond the seas, reaching into the lives of mortals and shaping the fates of heroes. One of the most famous mortals to be touched by Poseidon's divine power was Theseus, the legendary king of Athens. Theseus is often depicted as the embodiment of Greek heroism, brave, noble, and capable of extraordinary feats. His birth, however, is linked to Poseidon in a way that intertwines the god's power with mortal destiny. The myth of Theseus's birth begins with Aethra, the daughter of Pythias, king of Troezen. Aethra was a woman of great beauty, and she had already caught the eye of both Poseidon and Aegeus, the king of Athens. Both gods desired her, and their divine intervention in her life would lead to a complex and fateful union. Aegeus, unable to have children of his own, visited the oracle of Delphi in search of guidance. The oracle cryptically told him that he would father a son, but the child would bring him great distress. Uncertain of the prophecy's meaning, Aegeus returned to Athens deeply troubled. Upon his journey home, he stopped at Troezen, where he met Aethra, the daughter of Pythias. One night, Aegeus and Aethra slept together, and it is said that Poseidon also visited Aethra in the form of a dream. This night marked the beginning of Theseus's conception, as he was fathered by both Aegeus and Poseidon. Aethra, aware of the presence of both gods, took her pregnancy as a sign of destiny. She was given instructions by her father, Pythias, who understood the significance of her union with both a mortal king and a powerful sea god. When Theseus was born, Aegeus, uncertain of the child's true parentage, left instructions for his son to be raised in Troezen, far from Athens, until he was old enough to prove his royal lineage. Aegeus left a token behind for his son, a sword and sandals, which Theseus would later use to prove his identity when he reached adulthood. The myth of Theseus's birth reveals much about the intertwining of divine influence with human destiny. Poseidon, with his divine power over the seas, and his love for Aethra, contributed to the creation of a hero who would one day go on to shape the fate of Athens. Theseus's connection to Poseidon through his divine parentage was significant in several ways. Not only did it grant Theseus a unique power and connection to the sea, but it also imbued him with a sense of duty and responsibility that he would carry throughout his life. Theseus's early life was shaped by the knowledge that his divine parentage could one day be revealed, and the prophecy of his birth loomed over him like a guiding force. His journey was one of discovery, both of his true identity and of the legacy left by his father, Aegeus. As Theseus grew older, the time would come when he would set off for Athens, armed with the sword and sandals left for him by Aegeus, to claim his place as the true heir of the city. In the mythological landscape of ancient Greece, Heroes like Theseus were seen as men who could bridge the gap between mortals and gods, drawing upon divine favor to perform extraordinary deeds. Poseidon's role in Theseus's conception and birth marked the hero as someone with a special connection to the sea and to the forces of nature that could both create and destroy. This connection to Poseidon would be felt throughout Theseus's life, as he encountered both divine challenges and heroic feats that tested his strength, wit, and courage. One of the most significant aspects of Poseidon's influence on Theseus came later in his life, when the hero sailed across the Aegean to confront the monstrous Minotaur. The labyrinthine journey that led Theseus to the heart of the Minotaur's lair was as much a test of his connection to the sea as it was a test of his bravery. Though Poseidon did not directly intervene in this myth, his influence was felt in the very nature of Theseus's journey, one that would take him across the seas and through challenges that only a child of Poseidon could hope to conquer. The story of Theseus's birth is one of divine intervention and fate. It is a reminder that even the greatest of heroes are shaped by the gods, whose power weaves through the lives of mortals, guiding them toward their destinies. Poseidon's connection to Theseus not only marked the hero as one of divine lineage, but also as a force who would embody the dual nature of the sea itself, capable of both gentleness and destruction, wisdom and wrath. Theseus's birth, therefore, was not simply the beginning of a hero's story. It was the beginning of a journey that would forever link him to the mighty god of the sea. One of the most famous tales in Greek mythology is that of the Odyssey, the epic journey of Odysseus, the king of Ithaca, as he struggles to return home after the fall of Troy. However, it is not just Odysseus's wit, wisdom, and resourcefulness that are central to this story. It is also the wrath of Poseidon, whose anger and divine intervention create obstacles that shape the hero's journey in unexpected ways. Odysseus's journey home after the Trojan War is fraught with peril and challenges, many of which come from Poseidon himself. The god of the sea, angered by the actions of Odysseus, whom he viewed as disrespectful and arrogant, relentlessly sought to make the hero's return a torturous ordeal. The source of Poseidon's fury lies in the blinding of his son, Polyphemus, the Cyclops. The story begins with Odysseus and his men arriving on the island of the Cyclopes, where they come across Polyphemus, a monstrous one-eyed giant. In their quest for food and shelter, Odysseus and his men enter Polyphemus's cave, only to be trapped by the Cyclops, who begins to devour them one by one. In a desperate act of cleverness, Odysseus devises a plan to escape. He tells Polyphemus that his name is Nobody, and then, after intoxicating the Cyclops with wine, Odysseus and his men drive a sharpened stake into Polyphemus's single eye, blinding him. The Cyclops, now blind, calls out in pain, and when his fellow Cyclopes come to his aid, he explains that Nobody is attacking him. Hearing this, the other Cyclopes leave him to his misery. However, Polyphemus, now humiliated, knows that the only way to seek vengeance is through his father, Poseidon. He prays to his father to curse Odysseus and prevent him from ever returning home. Poseidon, enraged by the harm done to his son, answers the Cyclops' prayer. He swears vengeance on Odysseus and his men, and from that moment, the sea god's wrath follows the hero wherever he goes. Throughout the Odyssey, Poseidon creates countless trials and setbacks for Odysseus as he struggles to return home. He summons fierce storms, wrecks Odysseus's ship on the rocky shores of various islands, and even sends terrifying sea monsters to hunt him. In one particularly harrowing episode, Poseidon conjures a great storm that drives Odysseus and his crew far off course, nearly drowning them in the waves. The storm seems to rage without end, pushing them further and further from Ithaca. At one point, Odysseus is forced to wash up on the island of the Phaeacians, where, with the help of the Phaeacians, he finally finds a path back to his homeland. But even then, Poseidon is relentless. Upon learning that Odysseus has found refuge with the Phaeacians, the god of the sea seeks to punish him once more. In a fit of anger, Poseidon turns the Phaeacian ships to stone, ensuring that they will never again help any mortal return home. Poseidon's vengeance against Odysseus is not limited to his physical journey across the seas. His wrath also plays a crucial role in Odysseus's spiritual and emotional journey. The hardships Poseidon forces Odysseus to endure test not only his strength and leadership, but also his character. The many years that Odysseus spends trying to return home teach him patience, humility, and the importance of respecting the gods. By the time he finally returns to Ithaca, Odysseus is no longer the overconfident man who left for Troy. Instead, he has been shaped by Poseidon's wrath into a wiser and more self-aware king. In many ways, Poseidon's anger at Odysseus is a reminder of the god's power and the consequences of human arrogance. Odysseus, despite his intelligence and cleverness, makes the fatal mistake of taunting Polyphemus after escaping his grasp. This lack of humility, in the face of such immense divine power, brings about the wrath of Poseidon, whose vengeance is not quick or easily forgiven. The god of the sea does not just punish Odysseus for his actions. He makes his journey home a struggle that spans over many years, ensuring that the hero's return is anything but easy. The ongoing struggle between Poseidon and Odysseus also highlights the broader theme of the gods' involvement in human affairs. The gods, particularly Poseidon in this case, can be both capricious and merciless in their treatment of mortals. While they are often revered and respected, their anger can destroy lives and alter destinies. Odysseus, a hero favored by Athena and guided by his own cunning, is constantly thwarted by Poseidon's wrath, reminding the reader that no mortal, no matter how clever or resourceful, is beyond the reach of divine influence. Ultimately, Poseidon's wrath against Odysseus is not just a story of divine retribution, but also a tale of learning, growth, and the consequences of pride. It is Poseidon's anger that sets in motion the long and arduous journey of the Odyssey, forcing Odysseus to face the vast and unpredictable nature of the world, and the gods who rule over it. Through Poseidon's trials, Odysseus is forced to reckon with his own limitations and flaws, growing into a king worthy of the home and family he has fought so hard to return to. In the end, when Odysseus finally returns to Ithaca, the triumph is not just over Poseidon's trials, but also over the hero's own internal struggles. The wrath of Poseidon has been endured, and Odysseus has emerged from the experience wiser and more capable, having learned the value of humility and the importance of respecting the gods who govern the world. The story of the Argonauts is one of the greatest adventure tales of Greek mythology, a journey that saw a group of brave heroes venture forth to retrieve the Golden Fleece, a symbol of kingship and power. The Argonauts, led by the mighty Jason, faced numerous dangers, and among the many divine forces that shaped their journey was Poseidon, the god of the sea. His role in the quest not only highlights his dominion over the oceans, but also the complex relationship between the gods and mortals, who often relied on divine favor to succeed in their heroic endeavors. The tale of the Argonauts begins with Jason's quest to reclaim the throne of Iolcus from his uncle, Peleus. Peleus had usurped the throne, and the prophecy foretold that the one who would overthrow him would be a man wearing only one sandal. This prophecy came true when Jason, wearing one sandal due to an accident, arrived in Iolcus to challenge Peleus. The king, eager to rid himself of this potential threat, sent Jason on a seemingly impossible task: to retrieve the golden fleece from the distant land of Colchis, guarded by a dragon. The journey to Colchis was fraught with dangers, but Jason was not alone. He gathered a group of heroic companions, the Argonauts, named after their ship, the Argo. Among the famous figures who joined him were Heracles, Orpheus, Atalanta, and many others, each a hero in their own right. As they sailed across the seas, the Argonauts encountered countless challenges, from hostile nations to deadly creatures. But the sea itself, as ever, was a formidable foe, and Poseidon's power was ever present in the trials they faced. From the very beginning of their journey, the Argonauts were at the mercy of Poseidon's moods. As the god of the sea, Poseidon controlled the waves, the storms, and the very winds that could either guide the Argonauts to safety or threaten to sink their ship. In some versions of the myth, Poseidon is portrayed as an ally to the Argonauts, offering them protection when they are in dire need. For instance, when the Argonauts are caught in a violent storm, Poseidon calms the seas and guides them safely through treacherous waters, ensuring that their journey continues. Poseidon's favor was especially evident when the Argonauts encountered the clashing rocks, or Symplegades. These rocks, which were constantly crashing together, posed a grave danger to the Argonauts as they sailed through the narrow passage between them. The Argonauts, unsure of how to navigate this perilous obstacle, turned to Poseidon for help. It was said that the god of the sea, who had power over the waters, helped guide their ship through the gap, allowing them to pass through the clashing rocks unharmed. In another instance, Poseidon aided the Argonauts during their encounter with the dangerous sirens, creatures whose enchanting song lured sailors to their doom. When the Argonauts sailed close to the Sirens' island, they were at risk of being drawn into the deadly rocks by the sirens' beautiful but fatal song. However, Poseidon intervened, ensuring that the Argonauts could escape the sirens' grasp. Some versions of the myth suggest that Poseidon, aware of the threat the sirens posed, calmed the waters and ensured that the Argonauts were able to continue their voyage without falling victim to the creature's seductive call. Despite his role as a helper, Poseidon was not always benevolent toward the Argonauts. As the sea god, Poseidon's wrath could be just as swift and destructive as his kindness. In some versions of the myth, Poseidon sends storms and monsters to challenge the Argonauts, testing their strength and resolve. For example, during the journey, the Argonauts encounter a giant sea creature called the Calcatauroi, a pair of bronze bulls who breathe fire and whose very presence threatens to destroy the ship. Poseidon, in his role as a god of both creation and destruction, could be seen as either guiding the Argonauts toward their victory or testing their endurance in the face of adversity. One of Poseidon's more significant interventions occurs when the Argonauts finally reach Colchis. where the golden fleece is guarded by a fierce dragon. The Argonauts face numerous challenges in their attempt to retrieve the fleece. But with the help of Medea, the daughter of King Aeetes of Colchis, they are able to succeed. Poseidon's influence on this part of the story is more subtle, but it is implied that the god's control over the waters and the fate of the Argonauts plays a crucial role in ensuring that Jason is able to return home with the fleece. Throughout the Argonauts' journey, Poseidon's actions highlight his complex relationship with both mortals and heroes. As a god of immense power, Poseidon was capable of both destruction and aid, depending on the situation. His favor was not easily earned, and his wrath could be as unpredictable as the seas themselves. For the Argonauts, their success was as much about earning Poseidon's favor as it was about their own courage and skill. Poseidon's power over the sea was not only a source of danger, but also a source of guidance and protection, as he played a crucial role in helping the heroes overcome the obstacles they faced. Poseidon's involvement in the Argonautica serves as a reminder of the unpredictable forces of nature, and how even the mightiest of heroes are at the mercy of the gods. The sea god's presence throughout the journey demonstrates that no mortal can escape the reach of divine influence, no matter how strong or brave they may be. For the Argonauts, Poseidon was both an ally and an adversary, a reminder that in the world of Greek mythology, even the most heroic deeds are shaped by the will of the gods. The Trojan War is one of the most famous events in Greek mythology, a conflict that would change the course of history and shape the fates of gods and mortals alike. Poseidon, the god of the sea, played a crucial role in this monumental war, although his involvement was often marked by conflict, shifting allegiances and complex motivations. His actions during the Trojan War reveal much about his nature: powerful, unpredictable, and deeply entwined with both the divine and mortal realms. The war itself began over a dispute between the goddesses Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite, who quarreled over who was the fairest. Paris, a prince of Troy, was chosen as the judge, and after being offered bribes by each goddess, he awarded the golden apple to Aphrodite, promising her the most beautiful woman in the world, Helen, the wife of Menelaus, king of Sparta. Helen's abduction sparked a war between the Greeks and the Trojans, a war that would last for 10 years. Poseidon's role in the Trojan War was complex. As one of the principal Olympian gods, he was initially expected to support the Greeks, as they were the ones who had been wronged by the Trojans. However, Poseidon's involvement in the conflict was far from straightforward. At the beginning of the war, he sided with the Greeks, as they were favored by his brother, Zeus, the king of the gods. Poseidon, as the god of the sea, had dominion over the waters that the Greek ships sailed on, and he could ensure their safe passage or summon deadly storms to thwart their progress. Throughout the war, Poseidon played an important role in both aiding and hindering the Greek forces. He was known for his ability to control the sea and the tides, and this power was vital to the success of the Greek fleet. In several instances, Poseidon used his abilities to help the Greeks by calming the seas and guiding their ships safely to the shores of Troy. In one of the most famous episodes of the war, Poseidon intervenes to aid the Greek hero Achilles, sending forth a wave to carry his ships safely past the Trojan defenses. However, Poseidon's favor was not always guaranteed. In the midst of the war, Poseidon became embroiled in a dispute with the Greeks over their failure to honor him properly. After the Greeks failed to make the proper sacrifices to Poseidon, the god turned against them, sending forth a great storm to devastate their fleet. The storm, a manifestation of Poseidon's anger, was a reminder that even the most powerful of gods could be swayed by slighted honor, and Poseidon's wrath was as unpredictable as the sea itself. Despite his anger, Poseidon's loyalty to the Greeks was not easily broken. He was a god who could be swayed by both pride and compassion, and his ultimate allegiance to the Greeks was secured when he realized that they were deserving of victory. The Greeks, after all, were fighting to retrieve Helen, a woman who had been taken by Paris with the help of Aphrodite. Poseidon, though he had been angered by their disrespect, understood the significance of the war and chose to lend his strength to their cause. Poseidon's involvement in the Trojan War also highlights the complexity of his relationships with other gods. While he was initially aligned with the Greeks, his relationship with Zeus was fraught with tension. As the ruler of the sea, Poseidon was not always content with the distribution of power among the Olympian gods. In one of the most famous episodes of the war, Poseidon becomes embroiled in a quarrel with Zeus over the fate of the city of Troy. While Zeus, as the king of the gods, had already decided that the Trojans would ultimately fall, Poseidon was determined to ensure that the Greeks had their victory. In this episode, Poseidon's role as the god of the sea and his influence over the tides of battle were brought to the forefront. The gods, like mortals, were constantly maneuvering to assert their dominance, and Poseidon's attempts to change the course of the war showed his desire for control and his belief in his own power. However, as the gods' quarrels continued to escalate, it became clear that even Poseidon could not defy the will of Zeus for long. As the war progressed, Poseidon continued to influence the outcome of battles, aiding the Greeks in key moments and using his divine power to manipulate the flow of the conflict. However, Poseidon's involvement was not limited to his interactions with the Greek forces. The god also played a role in the final stages of the war, as he tried to protect the city of Troy from the wrath of the Greeks. His actions, though ultimately unsuccessful, showed that Poseidon was not merely a tool of vengeance, but a god who understood the importance of fate and the consequences of war. Despite his involvement in the Trojan War, Poseidon's role in the aftermath of the conflict was more subdued. After the fall of Troy, the Greeks returned home, and Poseidon's influence over the seas continued. The war had ended, but Poseidon's power over the oceans remained as strong as ever, reminding the mortals who sailed the seas that their destinies were still in the hands of the gods. Poseidon's actions during the Trojan War left a lasting impact on both the gods and mortals alike, as his role in the conflict revealed much about the nature of divine intervention and the delicate balance between the gods and those they sought to control. Poseidon's involvement in the Trojan War, though marked by moments of both aid and hindrance, ultimately revealed the complexities of his character. As a god who controlled the seas, Poseidon's actions were often as unpredictable as the tides themselves. His loyalty, though shifting, was ultimately determined by his sense of honor and his understanding of the broader consequences of the war. In the end, Poseidon's legacy from the Trojan War was one of power, unpredictability, and a reminder of the gods' vital role in shaping the fate of both gods and mortals. Poseidon, as the god of the sea, held dominion not only over the vast oceans and the countless creatures that swam within them, but also over a host of lesser gods and terrifying monsters that populated the waters. These beings, often more obscure than the major Olympian gods, played vital roles in the ancient Greek understanding of the natural world and its mysterious, untamable forces. In Poseidon's underwater realm, creatures both beautiful and monstrous coexisted. These entities were seen as extensions of Poseidon's own dual nature, nurturing and destructive, peaceful and fierce. Among the most famous of these creatures were the sea monsters, whose fearsome appearances and dreadful powers made them some of the most memorable figures in Greek mythology. One such monster was the Charybdis, a terrifying whirlpool that could swallow entire ships and men. Charybdis was a daughter of Poseidon and Gaia, a primordial force tied to the earth and sea. The creature was said to be so powerful that it could create massive swirls in the ocean, pulling anything into its depths. In Homer's Odyssey, the hero Odysseus encounters Charybdis as he navigates between it and the Scylla, another sea monster that would snatch sailors from their ships. Together, Charybdis and Scylla embodied the chaotic and deadly side of Poseidon's realm, where the sea was a place of danger and mortal life was fragile and often at the mercy of the gods. Another terrifying creature was the Hydra, a multi-headed serpent-like monster. While the Hydra is often associated with Heracles' 12 labors, it is deeply tied to Poseidon as well. The Hydra lived in the waters of Lerna, and each time one of its many heads was severed, 2 more would grow in its place. This regenerative ability made the Hydra an incredibly formidable foe, symbolizing the seemingly endless, regenerating chaos that could be found beneath the surface of Poseidon's kingdom. While Heracles eventually defeated the Hydra by cauterizing its stumps to prevent the heads from regrowing, the creature represented the destructive forces Poseidon could unleash, should he wish. Poseidon's realm also contained many lesser gods, spirits, and creatures who served or were associated with him. These include the Nereids, the 50 daughters of Nereus, the ancient god of the sea. The Nereids were beautiful sea nymphs who represented the more benign and helpful aspects of Poseidon's dominion. They were often depicted as helping sailors in distress, guiding ships through dangerous waters, and assisting other gods. Among the Nereids, Thetis, the mother of Achilles, is one of the most famous. As a sea goddess, Thetis played a pivotal role in both mortal and divine affairs, showing that Poseidon's realm was as much a part of the human world as it was a realm of its own. Poseidon's relationship with the Nereids was a reflection of his more gentle, nurturing side. While he had the power to create destruction, he was also capable of bringing calm and helping those in need. His realm, though sometimes marked by violent storms and monstrous creatures, also contained beauty and grace in the form of these water spirits. In addition to the Nereids, Poseidon's realm was populated by other, less well-known figures who embodied various aspects of the sea. These include the Pontus, the personification of the sea itself, and Oceanus, the Titan who encircled the world with his river-like form. These primordial beings were often invoked in myth to explain the forces of nature, as the Greeks sought to understand the world around them through divine archetypes. Not all the lesser beings in Poseidon's realm were benevolent, however. The Corybantes, a group of wild, ecstatic dancers, were sometimes associated with the sea and its mysteries. These creatures, who were often linked to ritualistic ceremonies, represented the more chaotic and untamed forces of Poseidon's kingdom. Their actions were wild and uncontrolled, much like the tempestuous storms that Poseidon could summon with a wave of his trident. There were also the Tritons, the half-human, half-fish beings who served as Poseidon's heralds. Triton, the most famous of these creatures, was often depicted as blowing a conch shell to calm the seas or to announce the god's arrival. The Tritons were less terrifying than the monsters of the deep, but still embodied the strange otherworldly nature of Poseidon's domain. Their role as messengers between the gods and mortals reflected Poseidon's influence over both the divine and the earthly realms. In addition to these creatures, Poseidon's domain was home to countless other beings, both large and small, that represented the diverse aspects of the sea. Some were creatures of beauty and grace, while others were terrifying and destructive. All of them, in their own way, were extensions of Poseidon's power, embodying both the nurturing and the chaotic forces that defined his reign. The sea, in Greek mythology, was not merely a vast, empty expanse of water. It was a dynamic, living realm filled with creatures, gods, and spirits who played integral roles in the world. Poseidon, as the god who ruled over this realm, was both its protector and its master. His ability to command the sea and its creatures made him one of the most powerful gods in the Greek pantheon, and his domain was as complex and multifaceted as the waters he controlled. The lesser gods and monsters of Poseidon's realm served as reminders of the deep, mysterious nature of the sea, both beautiful and terrifying, full of life and full of danger. They showed that Poseidon's power extended far beyond his role as a god of storms and earthquakes. It was a power that shaped the very fabric of the natural world, touching the lives of both gods and mortals alike. In this way, Poseidon's kingdom was not just a place of danger, but also one of immense wonder, where the forces of nature, both good and bad, lived side by side. In Greek mythology, Poseidon was not merely a god of the seas, but also one of the primordial forces that helped shape the world as the ancient Greeks knew it. His influence extended beyond the watery realm he ruled and into the very creation of the world, making him an essential figure in the mythology that explained the origins of both the gods and the cosmos. Poseidon's role in the creation myth reflects his dual nature. He is both a creator and a destroyer, a god who can shape the world with his mighty trident, but also one whose wrath can shake the foundations of the earth. The mythological creation of the world begins long before Poseidon's reign as the god of the sea. According to Greek tradition, the universe was born from chaos, the formless void. From this primordial state emerged the first gods, Gaia, Earth, Uranus, Sky, and the other fundamental forces of nature. These early gods were followed by the Titans, who ruled over the world until they were overthrown by the Olympians in the Titanomachy. Poseidon's role in creation became prominent after the defeat of the Titans, when the world was divided among the three brothers, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades. This division, which was decided by drawing lots, allotted Poseidon control over the seas, rivers, and all bodies of water. Though Poseidon's dominion was vast, the full extent of his influence went far beyond the oceans and was deeply tied to the foundational forces of the earth itself. It is said that when the Olympian gods defeated the Titans and took control of the world, they reshaped the very structure of the earth. Poseidon, with his mighty trident, played a key role in this process. As the god of both water and the land, Poseidon had the ability to mold the earth beneath him. It was through Poseidon's trident that the seas were carved into the earth, creating the oceans, lakes, and rivers that would serve as the lifeblood of the world. The tides, the currents, and the very flow of water across the earth were all influenced by his actions, and the seas themselves became a vital part of the earth's ecosystem. In some versions of the myth, Poseidon is credited with creating the first horses, which further demonstrates his role in the creation of life on earth. The god of the seas did not merely create bodies of water, but also shaped the land itself. His ability to bring forth horses, creatures that would become integral to the lives of mortals, underscores Poseidon's creative power and his deep connection to the earth. The creation of horses, like the formation of the seas, represents the intersection of Poseidon's divine forces, the ocean and the land, and his ability to shape both realms. Additionally, Poseidon's influence is said to extend to the very formation of the world's natural landscapes. The god's power over the earth allowed him to shape the mountains, valleys, and islands that populate the earth. His mighty trident could strike the land and cause earthquakes, forming new land masses or reshaping the landscape to his will. In this way, Poseidon's power was both creative and destructive, reflecting the dual nature of the sea itself. His ability to shape the Earth's physical structure further emphasizes his role as a force of immense power in the Greek creation myth. Though Poseidon's role in the creation of the world is often overshadowed by Zeus's dominance in the heavens and Hades' control over the underworld, the god of the seas played an equally vital role in shaping the natural world. The very existence of the oceans, rivers, and all bodies of water is a testament to Poseidon's creative influence. The seas that cover much of the Earth's surface, providing sustenance to countless creatures and influencing the climate and weather, were brought into being by Poseidon's divine power. In Greek mythology, Poseidon's ability to manipulate water was a symbol of the power and mystery of the natural world. Water, as both a life-giving force and a dangerous, unpredictable element, embodied the contradictions of Poseidon's nature. He was a god who could create life, as seen in the creation of horses and the shaping of the seas, but also one who could bring about destruction, as evidenced by the earthquakes and storms he could summon at will. Poseidon's role in the creation of the world, then, was a reflection of his duality. He was both a force of creation and a force of chaos. The ancient Greeks saw Poseidon as a god whose power could both nurture and destroy. His role in the creation of the world mirrored the very nature of the sea. It could be a source of life and nourishment, but it could also turn deadly and overwhelming. In this way, Poseidon was not merely a god of the sea. He was a force that shaped the very structure of the earth and the elements that governed life. Poseidon's influence over the earth and the seas also meant that he had control over the fertility of the land. The sea, with its vast and powerful currents, was seen as a source of both sustenance and danger. Poseidon's ability to control these waters made him a god who influenced not only the physical landscape, but also the health and well-being of the earth itself. The seas provided food through fish and other sea creatures, and the rivers, lakes, and springs, which Poseidon shaped, were essential sources of fresh water for the world. In some myths, Poseidon's role as a creator extends beyond just the physical world. he also plays a part in the creation of divine and mortal life. Poseidon's many relationships with both goddesses and mortals resulted in the birth of numerous children, some of whom became heroes in their own right. These children, born from Poseidon's unions, often reflected the god's traits: strength, leadership, and an affinity with water. The birth of Theseus, for example, connects Poseidon's creative force with the emergence of one of Greece's most famous heroes. Thus, Poseidon's role in the creation of the world was multifaceted. His influence over the seas and the earth made him an integral part of the Greek understanding of the natural world. From the creation of the oceans to the shaping of the earth's landscapes, Poseidon's divine power left an indelible mark on the world that would endure throughout the ages. While Poseidon is perhaps best known for his dominion over the seas, his relationships with other gods, especially his brother Zeus, played a significant role in his mythology. Poseidon's complex dynamic with Zeus sheds light on the power struggles between the Olympian gods and highlights the tensions that existed even among the most powerful deities. As brothers, they shared the world, but often clashed over matters of authority, respect, and dominion, with Poseidon's desire for greater power leading to occasional conflicts with Zeus, the king of the gods. The division of the cosmos after the Titanomachy, the great war between the Olympians and the Titans, was a moment of victory and resolution. When the Titans were defeated, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades drew lots to determine their respective realms. Zeus received the sky, Hades claimed the underworld, and Poseidon, the god of the seas, was given dominion over the oceans and all bodies of water. This division seemed to settle the power struggles between the brothers, but Poseidon, as a god of immense power, was never entirely content with the role he was given. One of the most well-known conflicts between Poseidon and Zeus occurred during the Trojan War. As the gods aligned themselves with either the Greeks or the Trojans, Poseidon initially sided with the Greeks. However, Zeus, ever the master strategist, had his own plans for the outcome of the war, and he attempted to assert his will over the entire conflict. Poseidon's anger grew, and he became frustrated with the seeming disregard for his influence and authority over the waters, which were essential to the success of the Greek forces. Poseidon, in response to Zeus's decisions, withdrew his support for the Greeks. He felt slighted by the way Zeus was manipulating the war's outcome, and his pride led him to take a more active role in challenging his brother's leadership. Poseidon, though he could not defy Zeus outright, began to interfere with the war in more subtle ways. He stirred up storms, delayed ships, and even sent devastating monsters to thwart the Greeks, all in an attempt to reassert his power and prove that the seas, which he ruled, were just as essential as the heavens Zeus controlled. Despite these clashes, Poseidon and Zeus were not enemies in the traditional sense. As brothers, they shared a deep familial bond, and their struggles often came from a desire for mutual respect and recognition. While Poseidon's frustrations were often born from his belief that his role as a god was being undermined, Zeus saw himself as the ultimate authority and arbiter of the divine will. This difference in perspective led to tension, but the two gods, in their respective roles, could not easily escape their interdependency. One of the more defining moments of Poseidon's conflict with Zeus occurred during the aftermath of the Trojan War. After the war's conclusion, the gods held a council to discuss the fate of Troy and its people. Poseidon, who had played a significant role in the war's outcome, was still angered by the events and sought to punish the Trojans further. However, Zeus, who had already made his decisions, sought to temper Poseidon's wrath, reminding him of the greater balance of the cosmos and the need for divine unity. This disagreement over the treatment of Troy highlighted the ongoing tensions between the two gods. Another key moment in their relationship came when Zeus sought to punish Poseidon for his involvement in the rebellion of the gods. In one myth, Poseidon is said to have supported a failed attempt to overthrow Zeus, and as a result, Zeus punished him by forcing Poseidon to build the walls of Troy for King Laomedon. The construction of these walls, which would later play a significant role in the Trojan War, was a task that Poseidon was forced to complete as punishment for his defiance. This episode further exemplified the way Poseidon's ambitions sometimes clashed with Zeus's sense of control and order over the divine realm. Though Poseidon often found himself at odds with Zeus, the two gods were not constantly in conflict. They both understood the importance of their roles in the grand cosmic order and, despite their occasional disagreements, maintained a level of respect for one another. The relationship between the two was one of rivalry, but also of familial duty. They were brothers, bound by blood, and their struggles, while sometimes heated, were rooted in their shared responsibilities as the rulers of different aspects of the world. In many ways, Poseidon's relationship with Zeus reflects the complex nature of the divine in Greek mythology. The gods were not perfect or infallible. They had desires, egos, and ambitions that sometimes led to friction between them. Poseidon's conflict with Zeus, while marked by moments of anger and frustration, was ultimately a reminder that even the most powerful beings in the cosmos were not immune to the forces of rivalry, pride, and desire for dominance. It also underscored the idea that power, whether it came from the heavens, the seas, or the underworld, was always in flux, with gods vying for influence and recognition in a world where no one deity could hold absolute sway. Though Poseidon's desire for greater control and recognition often led to clashes with Zeus, it was this very rivalry that contributed to the richness of Greek mythology. The interactions between these two gods, with their contrasting temperaments and spheres of influence, helped shape the complex and often contradictory nature of the gods themselves. In the end, their conflict was not one of ultimate destruction, but one of balance, a reminder that even the most powerful gods must navigate the intricacies of family, power, and respect. As one of the most powerful and revered gods of the ancient Greek pantheon, Poseidon's legacy is eternally tied to the sea. The ocean, with its vast and mysterious depths, embodies both the creator and the destroyer, the calm and the chaos, elements that were all inherent to Poseidon's nature. Over time, Poseidon became not only the god who ruled the seas, but also a figure whose influence stretched across the entire natural world, shaping the lives of mortals and gods alike. His power, his relationships, and his role in the mythological stories that have survived through the ages have solidified his place as one of the most enduring and captivating deities in Greek mythology. Poseidon's relationship with the sea reflects the complex, dual nature of water itself. Water is essential to life, nourishing the earth, feeding the plants and creatures that inhabit it, and quenching the thirst of those who live upon it. Poseidon's domain, the seas, was not only a source of sustenance for mortals, but also a powerful and unpredictable force that could bring both fortune and devastation. Just as the sea could calm itself, bringing smooth sailing and clear skies, it could also turn violent, unleashing waves, storms, and monstrous creatures that would wreak havoc on anyone who dared to challenge its power. It is no surprise that Poseidon's trident, a symbol of his dominion over the ocean, became one of the most recognizable and powerful symbols of ancient Greek mythology. With his trident, Poseidon could stir the seas into a furious tempest, summon earthquakes to shake the land, and create life from the depths of the ocean. His weapon was as multifaceted as the sea itself, capable of both nurturing and destroying, reflecting the unpredictable nature of his reign. As the god of the sea, Poseidon was also deeply intertwined with the fate of sailors and seafarers. The ancient Greeks, who relied heavily on the sea for trade, travel, and warfare, regarded Poseidon with both awe and fear. To sail the seas was to challenge Poseidon's power, and sailors often prayed to him before embarking on long journeys, hoping to gain his favor and avoid the wrath of the ocean. Poseidon's moods were as shifting as the tides themselves, sometimes calm and peaceful, at other times furious and destructive. And those who traversed his domain knew that their fate was often in the hands of the god who ruled over the water. The role of Poseidon in Greek mythology is not confined to his actions in the mortal world. His influence also extended to the divine realm. Poseidon's reign over the seas meant that he was an essential part of the divine order, maintaining balance between the gods and the natural world. His actions and his temper had consequences that rippled across the cosmos, affecting not only mortals, but the gods themselves. Even Zeus, the king of the gods, had to reckon with Poseidon's power, as seen in their occasional conflicts over control and respect. Yet, despite their occasional disagreements, the gods ultimately understood that Poseidon's role in the grand scheme of the universe was irreplaceable. Poseidon's legacy, however, is not just about his power and his dominion over the seas. He is also a symbol of the eternal, unchanging forces of nature that govern the world. The sea, like Poseidon himself, is eternal. It has existed since the beginning of time and will continue long after the gods have faded into myth. Just as the waves of the ocean ebb and flow, so too does Poseidon's influence endure, moving through the stories of ancient Greece and continuing to shape the imagination of those who seek to understand the mysteries of the natural world. The eternal nature of Poseidon's domain is reflected in the many myths and stories that surround him. Whether it was his role in the creation of the world, his interactions with heroes like Odysseus and Theseus, or his battles with the other gods, Poseidon's influence was ever present, guiding and shaping the course of both divine and mortal history. His actions in these stories remind us that the forces of nature, like the sea itself, are not always easily understood or controlled. The myths surrounding Poseidon highlight the delicate balance between creation and destruction, calm and storm, life and death. Through the ages, Poseidon's image has remained a symbol of the powerful, unpredictable forces that govern the natural world. His rule over the sea reminds us of the vastness and mystery of the world around us, as well as the fragility of human existence in the face of nature's mighty forces. The ancient Greeks saw Poseidon not only as a god to be feared and revered, but also as a figure who embodied the eternal power of the ocean, a power that could sustain life, bring destruction, and shape the destiny of all who dared to traverse his waters. In modern times, Poseidon's legacy continues to live on. He remains a symbol of the sea, representing the mysterious and often untamed forces of nature. His name is still invoked in the context of the oceans, and his trident continues to be a symbol of power and mastery over the natural world. Whether in literature, art, or popular culture, Poseidon's enduring presence reminds us that the sea, like the gods themselves, is both a source of life and a reminder of the immense power that lies beyond human control. As we reflect on the story of Poseidon, we are reminded of the complexity and depth of his character. He was not merely a god of the sea, but a force of nature whose power and influence shaped the world. His legacy is one of balance between calm and chaos, creation and destruction. And his story is a testament to the enduring power of the natural world. As Greek mythology evolved and spread across the ancient world, the gods of Greece were often adopted and adapted by neighboring cultures. Among these cultures were the Romans, who borrowed heavily from Greek religious practices and mythology. Poseidon, the god of the sea, was no exception, though in Roman mythology he was known by the name Neptune. While the name and some of the finer details of his character may have changed, the essential nature of Poseidon's power and influence remained the same. His role in Roman culture was just as significant as his role in Greek mythology, and his influence can be seen in the way the Romans worshipped the sea and its many mysteries. The Roman version of Poseidon, Neptune, was not just the god of the oceans, but also the protector of horses and the equestrian lifestyle, a reflection of Poseidon's own association with horses in Greek mythology. The Romans, who valued horses as vital for their military and agricultural efforts, took Poseidon's connection to these creatures and expanded it in their own interpretation of Neptune. This fusion of the god's role as ruler of the sea and protector of horses led to Neptune being seen as a deity who governed both the untamable nature of the ocean and the strength and grace of the horse, a creature essential to the Roman way of life. Like Poseidon in Greek mythology, Neptune had the power to stir the seas, create storms, and control the tides. The Romans, who were great sailors and traders, relied heavily on the sea for their economic prosperity and military expansion. As a result, Neptune was deeply revered, particularly among sailors, fishermen, and anyone who depended on the sea for their livelihood. The Romans made regular offerings to Neptune to ensure safe passage across the waves and to prevent the wrath of storms or shipwrecks, which were seen as a direct reflection of the god's anger. The connection between Neptune and the sea was also reflected in the elaborate rituals and ceremonies performed in his honor. The most famous of these was the Neptunalia, a festival held in the middle of summer to celebrate Neptune's role in providing water, both for the sea and for the land. During the festival, the Romans would pray for rain to nourish the crops and offer sacrifices to Neptune in gratitude for the abundance of water. The festival was a reminder that Neptune, like Poseidon, was a god who could provide for life's needs, but could also unleash destructive storms if he was angered. Neptune's influence extended beyond the sea and into the realm of the Roman state. As a god who represented power and authority, Neptune was often invoked in times of war, particularly by the Roman navy. Neptune was not just a god to be feared in times of peace. He was also a deity who could provide the strength and protection necessary for victory in battle. Roman generals and admirals would call upon Neptune's favor before embarking on military campaigns across the sea, hoping that the god would ensure their success and safety. Neptune's blessings were seen as essential to the success of Roman naval operations, which were crucial to the expansion and maintenance of the Roman Empire. The worship of Neptune was not confined to the seas. His association with horses made him a patron of cavalry and chariot racing, two aspects of Roman life that were closely linked to the power of the military and the elite. The Roman cavalry, known for their skill and discipline, often invoked Neptune's favor before heading into battle. In this way, Neptune's influence extended into both the martial and peaceful aspects of Roman society, reinforcing his role as a powerful and multifaceted god. While Neptune was widely revered across the Roman world, he did not command the same central role in Roman religious life that Jupiter, the king of the gods, did. Jupiter was the god of the sky and thunder, and he represented the highest form of divine power in the Roman pantheon. Neptune, on the other hand, was part of a broader divine system that governed the elements of nature and life, alongside gods like Mars, the god of war, and Venus, the goddess of love. While Neptune's power was undeniable, he did not hold the same authority over the heavens and earth as his Greek counterpart Zeus or his Roman counterpart Jupiter. However, Neptune's role was still vital to the Roman worldview, as the sea and water was seen as essential to the prosperity and survival of the empire. In art and literature, Neptune was often depicted riding a chariot drawn by horses, emphasizing his dual role as the god of both the sea and horses. He was also frequently shown with his trident, a symbol of his control over the waters and his ability to shape the natural world. Neptune's imagery was closely tied to that of Poseidon, and in many ways, the Roman interpretation of the god remained true to the Greek mythological tradition. This continuity reflected the deep cultural exchange between Greece and Rome, and the ways in which Roman religion absorbed and adapted the myths and deities of the Greeks. In addition to his associations with the sea and horses, Neptune also had connections to other aspects of Roman life. As a god who governed the forces of nature, Neptune was seen as a protector of both the natural world and the city of Rome itself. The Romans believed that Neptune could control the waters and, by extension, the resources necessary for survival. His protection was crucial in ensuring that the city's water supplies remained abundant and that its fleets remained safe on their voyages. Neptune's influence on Roman culture, particularly in the context of the empire's expansion, underscores the importance of Poseidon's legacy as the god who represented the untamable forces of the natural world. The Romans, much like the Greeks before them, understood that the power of the sea could both sustain and destroy, and they sought Neptune's favor to ensure their dominance over the Mediterranean world. Though Poseidon and Neptune were distinct deities, their roles as gods of the sea highlight the enduring legacy of the Greek gods in Roman culture. The Romans may have adopted Neptune as their own, but the god's core attributes, the power to create, the ability to destroy, and the authority over the natural world, remained rooted in the traditions and myths of Poseidon. Through Neptune, Poseidon's influence extended beyond Greece and into the heart of the Roman Empire, continuing to shape the religious and cultural practices of one of history's greatest civilizations. The sea has long been a symbol of both life and death, of mystery and power, a paradox that perfectly encapsulates the nature of Poseidon. As the god who ruled over the vast, untamable waters, Poseidon's domain was not only a physical space, but also a reflection of the deeper truths about the world, the dualities of creation and destruction, order and chaos, calm and storm. The ocean was a place of great beauty and abundance, but it was also capable of unleashing destruction beyond comprehension, making Poseidon both a giver and taker of life. In Greek mythology, the sea symbolized many things, but above all, it represented the unknown. Just as the sea could hide treasures beneath its waves, it also concealed dangers, from vicious monsters to unpredictable storms. Poseidon, as the god who governed these vast, mysterious waters, embodied this duality. His control over the sea allowed him to create and sustain life, but it also gave him the power to destroy and reshape the world at his whim. This power was not only symbolic of the uncontrollable forces of nature, but also reflected Poseidon's own volatile nature, a god capable of both nurturing and devastating. The sea, in ancient Greece, was both a source of sustenance and a formidable barrier. For sailors, it was a means of travel and trade, essential for the exchange of goods and ideas. Yet, it was also a space fraught with danger, with the potential for shipwrecks, drowning, and loss. Poseidon's power over the sea meant that sailors and fishermen alike had to constantly respect the unpredictable nature of the water. Offerings and prayers were made in hopes of appeasing the god, ensuring safe voyages and prosperous catches. Poseidon's unpredictable temperament was reflected in the very tides that defined the lives of those who depended on the sea. The sea also had a symbolic link to the concept of life's journey, a journey often fraught with challenges and uncertainty. In the Odyssey, the epic journey of Odysseus, Poseidon's wrath becomes a reflection of the trials of life itself. Just as Odysseus had to face storms, monsters, and the unknown, so too do mortals face trials in their own lives. Poseidon's intervention in Odysseus's journey serves as a reminder that no journey, whether literal or metaphorical, is without its struggles and setbacks. In this way, Poseidon's realm of the sea becomes a reflection of the human experience, filled with both beauty and peril, hope and despair. Beyond these immediate associations with life's journey, the sea also had spiritual significance in Greek thought. Water was often seen as a purifying force, and the sea, with its eternal flow, represented the cycle of life and death. Poseidon's dominion over the water made him a god associated with both the beginning and the end of life. The waters could nurture crops, provide food, and sustain civilizations, but they could also wash away cities, drown armies, and cause earthquakes that shattered the Earth's foundation. This sense of renewal and destruction gave Poseidon a deeply existential role in Greek mythology, representing the cyclical nature of life. The sea's power over mortality was not limited to Poseidon's ability to create and destroy. It was also tied to the mythological connection between the sea and the afterlife. While Hades ruled the underworld, Poseidon's waters were said to flow into the very depths of the earth, symbolizing the crossing of souls from the mortal realm to the afterlife. The river Styx, one of the main rivers of the underworld, was sometimes associated with the sea, and in some traditions it was said that Poseidon had dominion over the spirits that passed through the waters of the river. This connection between Poseidon's sea and the afterlife further cemented his role as a god who controlled the transitions between life and death. Poseidon's role as a symbol of the sea also extended to his association with the power of the natural world. The sea, as vast and unyielding as it was, represented the infinite power of nature, a force that could never be fully controlled by mortals. Poseidon's trident, his weapon of choice, became a symbol of his dominion over these wild forces. It was said that with a single strike, Poseidon could summon storms, calm the waters, or cause earthquakes that would shake the foundations of the earth. The trident's 3 prongs represented the 3 realms over which Poseidon ruled: the sea, the rivers, and the underworld. Each prong symbolized a different aspect of his power, and together they formed a weapon capable of reshaping the very world. Poseidon's connection to horses further reinforced the sea's symbolism as a force of both creation and destruction. The creation of the first horse from the sea represents the blending of Poseidon's dominion over the ocean with his power over the land. Horses, which symbolized both strength and freedom, were a reminder of the god's ability to create life and imbue it with vitality. Yet, horses were also associated with warfare, and their ability to both carry men into battle and tear through the land in uncontrollable fury reflected the destructive power of the sea. Just as the ocean could nurture ships and fleets, it could also swallow them whole, and the horses that Poseidon created mirrored this dual nature. Throughout Greek mythology, Poseidon's actions often reflect the sea's complex relationship with humanity. The sea, which brought life to civilizations through trade and travel, could also turn deadly and overwhelm the unprepared. This dynamic is evident in many of Poseidon's myths, where mortals and gods alike face the unpredictable and often destructive power of the sea. Whether Poseidon was aiding Odysseus, guiding sailors through storms, or unleashing the wrath of the ocean upon those who angered him, his influence was a constant reminder of nature's power, both creative and destructive. In modern times, Poseidon's symbolism continues to resonate. The sea remains an enduring force in our collective imagination, representing both the beauty of the natural world and the terrifying potential for destruction. Poseidon, as the god of the sea, serves as a reminder that we are never fully in control of the forces of nature. While we may harness its power, like the ancient Greeks with their ships, we must also respect its might, as Poseidon's stories warn us that the sea can be as merciless as it is beautiful. As we near the end of Poseidon's journey, it is essential to reflect on the god's eternal significance and his enduring presence in both myth and human understanding of the natural world. Poseidon, the god of the sea, embodies the profound mysteries of water, from its life-sustaining qualities to its overwhelming and unpredictable power. While his myths and legends continue to captivate the imagination, his deeper meaning as a symbol of the eternal forces of nature remains just as relevant today. Poseidon's role as a deity is marked by his control over the seas, the rivers, and all bodies of water. These elements are essential to life, not just for the ancient Greeks, but for all cultures throughout history. Water is life, but it is also capable of tremendous destruction. Poseidon is the living embodiment of these dualities, the calm and nurturing waves that nourish crops and sustain civilizations, as well as the devastating storms that ravage fleets and floodlands. His nature is, like the sea itself, ever-changing and unpredictable. The sea can be a place of wonder, but it can also be a place of terror, just as Poseidon himself can be both a protector and a destroyer. In many ways, Poseidon is a timeless figure, his essence intertwined with the ocean that has witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations, the ebb and flow of human history. The ancient Greeks saw Poseidon not only as a powerful god, but also as a force that shaped the world, determining the fates of sailors, kings, and cities. His influence extended beyond the seas and rivers to the land itself, where his trident could stir the earth and cause earthquakes, an unsettling reminder that nature's power is far from predictable. Poseidon's relationship with other gods also reflects his eternal presence in the Greek pantheon. While Zeus, the king of the gods, often dominated the heavens, Poseidon's influence over the waters gave him authority over vast and untamable realms. Though his role sometimes put him at odds with Zeus, as we saw during their occasional disputes over power, it was clear that Poseidon's control over the seas and the earth made him indispensable. In fact, the gods could not have ruled the cosmos without recognizing Poseidon's fundamental influence, much as no human civilization could have thrived without respecting the sea. In Poseidon's eternal rule over the seas lies a reflection of the infinite, unyielding forces of nature. The sea is an ever-changing entity, a reminder that life itself is fluid, ever in motion, and capable of both creation and destruction. It does not follow the whims of any mortal or immortal, and even the gods must contend with its uncontrollable might. Poseidon's eternal nature is, therefore, tied to the sea's ability to remain constant in its essence, even as it shifts, storms, and swells with unpredictable power. As the ruler of the ocean, Poseidon's domain also held immense spiritual significance. Water, as both a symbol of purity and a force of renewal, was central to many rituals and myths. Poseidon, in his role as the god who could calm the seas or send them into chaos, symbolized the spiritual duality of nature itself. The idea that the forces of life are never entirely within our control, and that every moment carries the potential for both creation and destruction. Much like the sea, the god who ruled over it represents the mysterious, uncontrollable nature of the world and the human condition. In the myths, Poseidon's actions often remind mortals of their dependence on the forces of nature, even as they attempt to tame and shape the world. From the creation of the first horse to his role in the Trojan War, Poseidon's influence is felt far beyond his watery realm. His actions and temper were intertwined with the lives of heroes, kings, and entire civilizations. But his most powerful legacy lies in his connection to the sea itself, an eternal, ever-present force that will outlast the lives of mortals and the stories of gods. For the ancient Greeks, Poseidon was a reminder that the world is much larger than any one person, city, or empire. The sea, as much as any god, stood as an enduring symbol of the vastness of the world and the forces that govern it. Poseidon's rule over the oceans and waters was a metaphor for the uncontrollable forces that shaped the destinies of mortals, gods, and cities alike. While Poseidon may have been a god who could be appeased through sacrifice and respect, the sea itself remained indifferent to human intentions, a reminder of the power and mystery that lies beyond our understanding. Today, Poseidon's legacy continues to resonate. His influence over the sea and water remains as relevant as ever, with the oceans still shaping the planet's climate, culture, and economies. Poseidon, as a figure, has endured as a symbol of the mysteries and power of nature, reminding us that the natural world is a force that exists beyond human control. In both the ancient world and modern times, Poseidon continues to embody the eternal, unpredictable forces of the ocean, offering both creation and destruction, calm and storm. As we come to the end of Poseidon's journey, we reflect on his eternal nature, a nature that will outlast even the myths and gods themselves. Like the sea, Poseidon's influence will continue to shape the world for as long as the waters flow. The ancient Greeks were deeply influenced by the forces of nature, and Poseidon, as one of their chief gods, was at the center of their worldview. The sea, with its vastness and unpredictability, was both revered and feared. In Poseidon, the Greeks found a deity who personified these dual aspects of nature. As the god of the sea, Poseidon was an essential figure in Greek religion, and his influence extended far beyond the waters to touch various aspects of Greek civilization, from trade and navigation to agriculture and warfare. Poseidon was seen as the protector of sailors and fishermen, people who relied on the sea for their livelihood. To ensure safe voyages, sailors would offer sacrifices to Poseidon, hoping for calm waters and favorable winds. Without Poseidon's favor, the sea could become a treacherous place, and a ship could easily be lost in a storm or wrecked on a rocky shore. Poseidon's power over the sea made him a key figure in the daily lives of those who depended on the ocean for sustenance. Beyond the practical aspects of Poseidon's influence, he was also tied to the broader concept of the divine order. As one of the Olympian gods, Poseidon helped maintain balance in the world. His domain over the sea meant that he controlled a critical aspect of nature that could either provide or destroy. Poseidon's power reminded the Greeks that they were at the mercy of forces far greater than themselves, forces that required respect and reverence. The god of the sea was also important in the realm of warfare, particularly naval warfare. As the Greeks became more engaged in maritime battles, Poseidon's role as a protector of sailors and ships grew. The importance of the sea in Greek military campaigns cannot be overstated, and Poseidon's favor was often sought before major naval engagements. In this sense, Poseidon was not only a god of creation and destruction, but also a strategic figure in the geopolitical landscape of the ancient Greek world. Poseidon's presence in ancient Greek culture was not limited to the religious sphere. His influence extended deeply into art, literature, and daily life. As one of the major Olympian gods, Poseidon was frequently depicted in Greek art, symbolizing not only the mighty seas he ruled, but also the power and unpredictability of nature itself. His image, often shown with his iconic trident, became one of the most recognizable and enduring symbols of Greek mythology, and his influence can be seen across various forms of artistic expression throughout ancient Greece. In ancient Greek pottery and sculpture, Poseidon was often portrayed as a powerful, regal figure, embodying the raw force of the sea. He was depicted as a muscular god, his trident raised in one hand, commanding the waves and the creatures of the deep. These depictions were not only a testament to Poseidon's power, but also a reflection of how the ancient Greeks understood their world, a world in which the natural forces, embodied by gods like Poseidon, were ever present and had the ability to shape the fates of mortals and gods alike. One of the most famous artistic depictions of Poseidon comes from the Temple of Zeus at Olympia, where a monumental statue of the god was created by the renowned sculptor Phidias. In this statue, Poseidon is shown as a towering, muscular figure with a strong, commanding presence. His trident, which symbolized his control over the sea, was a key feature of the sculpture, highlighting his status as one of the most powerful deities in the Greek pantheon. This statue, like many others of the time, conveyed the Greek admiration for Poseidon's strength and his mastery over the natural world. In addition to sculpture, Poseidon was also a prominent figure in Greek pottery. Many ancient Greek vases and ceramics feature scenes from Poseidon's myths, particularly those involving his role in the Trojan War, his battles with other gods, and his interactions with mortals. The imagery on these vessels often depicted Poseidon in the midst of action, riding his chariot across the sea, summoning storms, or battling sea monsters. These scenes were not only artistic representations of his myths, but also served as a means of connecting the divine with the daily lives of the people. The gods were not distant, abstract figures, but active participants in the lives of the Greeks, and art played a vital role in illustrating their influence. Poseidon's influence was also felt in the realm of literature, particularly in epic poetry. As the god of the sea, Poseidon played a key role in Homer's Iliad and Odyssey, two of the most famous works of ancient Greek literature. In the Iliad, Poseidon's power over the seas and his involvement in the Trojan War are central to the narrative. Poseidon, though not as central as Zeus, still plays a significant role in the war, both aiding the Greeks and at times rebelling against Zeus's will. His presence in the Iliad represents the connection between the gods and the world of men, where divine will and mortal action are often intertwined. In the Odyssey, Poseidon's role is even more prominent. As Odysseus struggles to return home after the fall of Troy, Poseidon's anger becomes a central force in his journey. The god's wrath, stemming from the blinding of his son Polyphemus, creates countless obstacles for Odysseus, from violent storms to dangerous sea monsters. Poseidon's relentless pursuit of vengeance against Odysseus highlights the god's unpredictable and destructive nature, but also underscores the importance of respecting the gods, whose power could shape the very course of a hero's fate. Beyond these major literary works, Poseidon's influence can also be seen in later literature and cultural references. The Roman poet Ovid, in his Metamorphoses, recounted Poseidon's various adventures and interactions with other gods and mortals, further cementing his place in the literary tradition of the ancient world. Poseidon, in these texts, was not only a god of the seas, but also a powerful force of nature whose actions could change the course of events, for better or worse. Poseidon's influence extended beyond the literary and artistic realms into the cultural practices of the ancient Greeks. His presence was felt in their festivals, their rituals, and their daily lives. The Greeks, like many ancient civilizations, had a deep respect for the forces of nature, and Poseidon, as one of the most powerful of the gods, represented the raw, untamable power of the natural world. Festivals in his honor, such as the Neptunalia in Rome and other similar ceremonies in Greece, celebrated the god's power over water, the sea, and the creatures that lived within it. In addition, Poseidon's connection to horses was another aspect of his influence. The Greeks associated Poseidon with the creation of horses, and his power over these creatures was symbolic of his broader dominion over both land and sea. The ancient Greeks recognized the horse as a symbol of strength and freedom, and Poseidon's role as the god who created and controlled them further reinforced his importance in their culture. Horse races, chariot races, and other equestrian events were often held in honor of Poseidon, particularly in the coastal cities where his influence was most strongly felt. In the Roman world, Poseidon's counterpart, Neptune, retained much of the same symbolism and cultural significance. The Romans, who were heavily influenced by Greek culture, adopted Neptune as their god of the sea and expanded his role to include the protection of horses and naval warfare. Just as Poseidon was vital to Greek sailors and soldiers, Neptune was an important deity for the Romans, whose empire relied on the strength of its navy and its military prowess. Ultimately, Poseidon's influence on Greek and Roman art, literature, and culture reflects the deep respect the ancient world had for the natural forces that governed their lives. As a god of both creation and destruction, Poseidon represented the unpredictable and uncontrollable aspects of nature, forces that could both sustain life and bring about chaos. His presence in art, literature, and daily life served as a reminder of the power and mystery of the world around them, and his enduring legacy continues to captivate us today. Poseidon, as the god of the sea, was not only the ruler of the waters, but also the master of the strange and often terrifying creatures that inhabited the depths. The creatures of Poseidon's realm were as varied as the seas themselves, ranging from fearsome monsters that wreaked havoc on sailors to more benign and even helpful beings. These creatures, often manifestations of Poseidon's power, symbolized the chaotic and unpredictable nature of the sea, and they played a central role in the myths and legends associated with Poseidon. Among the most famous of these sea monsters was the Kraken, a colossal sea creature that terrorized sailors and ships. Often depicted as a massive octopus or squid, the Kraken was said to be so large that it could drag entire ships and crews to the bottom of the ocean with a single sweep of its tentacles. The creature was an embodiment of the overwhelming, unstoppable power of Poseidon's ocean, a reminder that even the bravest sailors were at the mercy of the sea's wrath. The Kraken, in many ways, symbolizes the deep unknown that lurks beneath the surface of the water, a force that can rise up unexpectedly and strike fear into the hearts of mortals. Another famous creature tied to Poseidon's realm is the Cetus, a great sea serpent. In Greek mythology, the Cetus was often depicted as a monstrous and terrifying creature that threatened the lives of both mortals and gods. In one of the most well-known myths involving the Cetus, the hero Perseus must confront the beast to save the princess Andromeda, who is chained to a rock as a sacrifice to the creature. The Cetus was sent by Poseidon as a punishment for the pride of Andromeda's mother, Cassiopeia, who had claimed that her daughter was more beautiful than the Nereids, the sea nymphs. Poseidon, angered by this insult to the divine, sent the Cetus to punish the kingdom, demonstrating the god's ability to create fearsome creatures as a way of asserting his authority. The Charybdis is another of Poseidon's legendary sea creatures, often paired with the terrifying Scylla to form a deadly obstacle for sailors. The two monsters lived on opposite sides of a narrow strait, and any ship that attempted to pass between them was sure to encounter great danger. Charybdis was a massive whirlpool, capable of swallowing entire ships and their crews, while Scylla was a multi-headed sea monster that would snatch sailors from the deck. Together, they represented the perilous nature of the sea, where even the smallest mistake could lead to disaster. The myth of Charybdis and Scylla is a reminder of the dangers that lurk in Poseidon's realm and the unpredictable nature of the ocean itself. Poseidon's realm was also home to less frightening but still extraordinary creatures, such as the Nereids, the 50 daughters of the sea god Nereus. These water nymphs were often depicted as beautiful and graceful beings who helped sailors in distress and guided ships through treacherous waters. The Nereids, unlike the monstrous creatures of the deep, represented the more benign and helpful aspects of Poseidon's domain. They were seen as protectors of the seas and the creatures that lived within them, embodying Poseidon's connection to both the nurturing and destructive sides of nature. The Nereids often appeared in the myths of heroes, offering their assistance to figures like Heracles, Odysseus, and Jason during their journeys. In addition to these sea creatures, Poseidon's realm was also home to various other beings that symbolized the power and mystery of the sea. The Tritons, for example, were half human, half fish creatures who served as Poseidon's heralds. With their conch shells, they would announce the arrival of the god or summon the sea creatures to do his bidding. The Tritons were less fearsome than the Kraken or Cetus, but still embodied the strange, otherworldly nature of Poseidon's domain. They were part of the vast network of beings that populated the waters, all of them under Poseidon's control. The stories of Poseidon's sea monsters highlight the god's connection to the primal and untamable forces of nature. The monsters of the deep, much like Poseidon himself, were unpredictable and dangerous, capable of both creation and destruction. They embodied the chaos that the sea could bring, a place of beauty and terror where the rules of the land did not apply. Poseidon's power was reflected in these creatures, whose strength and fearsome appearances were a testament to the god's ability to shape the world in both wondrous and terrifying ways. While the sea monsters of Poseidon's realm were often portrayed as threats to mortal life, they also served as reminders of the vastness of the natural world and the mysteries that lay beyond human understanding. The ancient Greeks, who saw the sea as a place of both life and death, understood that the creatures of Poseidon's realm were not just metaphors for danger, but real, tangible threats that could change the course of their lives. These monsters were a reflection of the ancient Greeks' respect for the sea and the gods who governed it. A reminder that, no matter how much humanity tried to control the world, the forces of nature, personified by Poseidon and his creatures, were always lurking just beyond the horizon. Though Poseidon was a god of the ancient Greek pantheon, his legacy has persisted far beyond the world of myth. His influence extends into modern culture, art, and even environmentalism, where his reign over the seas and waters continues to shape how we view the natural world and its most powerful elements. Poseidon's enduring relevance speaks to the timeless nature of the ocean itself, a vast, untamable force that continues to capture the imagination of people across generations. In modern art and literature, Poseidon's image as the god of the seas is often invoked to convey the majesty, power, and mystery of the ocean. His portrayal in contemporary works frequently emphasizes both his strength and his unpredictability. From classic literature to modern films, Poseidon, or Neptune in Roman mythology, remains a symbol of the sea's immense power. In art, Poseidon is depicted with his iconic trident, controlling the waters with effortless authority. This image serves as a reminder that, while humanity has advanced technologically, the sea remains an eternal force, resistant to full understanding or control. One of the most striking modern representations of Poseidon can be found in the world of popular culture, particularly in literature and cinema. In stories such as Rick Riordan's Percy Jackson series, Poseidon is portrayed as a powerful yet compassionate god who has a deep connection to his son, Percy, a mortal demigod. In these modern retellings, Poseidon's character is depicted as a god who is not only a ruler of the seas, but also a father figure, a symbol of the complexity and duality that define his ancient mythological persona. Poseidon's influence in these modern stories continues to evoke the same admiration and fear that the ancient Greeks must have felt toward their god of the sea. Poseidon's legacy also extends into the world of environmentalism. As the god who controls the oceans and the Earth's waters, Poseidon's image has been used as a symbol for the protection and preservation of the natural world, particularly the seas and oceans. In the modern era, Poseidon's legacy is often invoked in campaigns to combat pollution, protect marine life, and address the growing threats of climate change and rising sea levels. The ocean, as Poseidon's realm, is now seen as a battleground for environmental protection, where human actions are reshaping the very forces that Poseidon once controlled. The link between Poseidon and the ocean has led to his association with the urgent need for global cooperation in addressing environmental challenges. With the threat of overfishing, pollution, and the loss of biodiversity in the oceans, Poseidon's role as a protector of the seas takes on new significance. His image is often used to raise awareness about the importance of preserving marine ecosystems and the critical need to maintain the health of the world's oceans for future generations. Poseidon's power over the seas serves as a potent reminder of the ocean's fragility and the need for humanity to respect and protect the waters that sustain life on Earth. In addition to environmentalism, Poseidon's legacy also continues to inspire exploration and discovery. The sea has always been a source of mystery and fascination for explorers, and Poseidon's domain is a symbol of humanity's unrelenting curiosity about the unknown. From ancient seafaring voyages to modern scientific expeditions, Poseidon's realm remains a place of adventure, challenge, and awe. His influence can be seen in the spirit of exploration that drives oceanographers and marine biologists to uncover the secrets of the deep, as well as in the ongoing efforts to understand the complex relationship between the oceans and the climate. Poseidon's role in the myths also underscores the importance of understanding the natural world's dual nature, its capacity for both creation and destruction. The ancient Greeks revered the ocean for its ability to provide sustenance, but they also recognized the dangers that lurked within it. This recognition of the sea's power is still relevant today, as we face environmental crises that threaten to overwhelm the natural world. Poseidon's myths serve as a reminder that the forces of nature are not to be taken for granted. They must be respected, understood, and protected. Poseidon's legacy is also evident in the many places around the world that bear his name or are connected to his myth. Coastal cities, ancient ruins, and maritime communities that once worshipped Poseidon still carry his influence in their cultures and practices. From Poseidon's temple at Sunion in Greece, where ancient worshippers once offered sacrifices to the god, to modern coastal cities that continue to celebrate the sea as a source of life and inspiration, Poseidon's presence is still felt. His mythological influence continues to shape our understanding of the oceans and the vital role they play in our world. In this way, Poseidon's legacy transcends the boundaries of ancient mythology. While the gods of the Greeks and Romans may no longer be worshipped in the same way, their myths still resonate with us today. Poseidon, as the god of the seas, remains a powerful symbol of nature's might, mystery, and majesty. Whether through art, literature, environmentalism, or the continuing exploration of the oceans, Poseidon's influence continues to shape our relationship with the natural world. As we look to the future, Poseidon's legacy remains as relevant as ever. His power over the seas reminds us of the delicate balance between humanity and nature, and the need to respect and care for the world that sustains us. The ancient Greeks understood that the ocean was a force both to be revered and feared. Today, as we face the challenges of climate change and environmental degradation, Poseidon's lessons are more important than ever. In honoring Poseidon's legacy, we honor the sea itself and the vital connection between the gods, nature, and humanity. Poseidon, as the god of the sea, is a figure that carries profound symbolic significance not only in the ancient world, but also in the realms of philosophy and religion. His influence extends far beyond mythology, embodying deep concepts about the forces of nature, human existence, and the divine order. In both ancient religious practices and later philosophical interpretations, Poseidon served as a symbol of the uncontrollable and powerful forces that govern the world. In ancient Greek religion, Poseidon was not just a god of storms and the seas, but also a deity who represented the unpredictable and often uncontrollable forces of nature. He was the god of earthquakes, known for his ability to shake the earth with the strike of his trident. Earthquakes, like storms at sea, were viewed as manifestations of Poseidon's power, and this further reinforced his association with the wild, unpredictable forces of nature. His ability to both create and destroy, to shape the land and the seas, made him a symbol of nature's raw and untamable power. The Greeks saw Poseidon as a deity who embodied the idea that nature was a force beyond human control. Just as the oceans could be calm one moment and stormy the next, so too could the natural world be both bountiful and destructive. This duality made Poseidon a god who was both revered and feared. The sea could provide food, transportation, and trade, but it could also take lives, sink ships, and destroy entire coastal cities. In this way, Poseidon's symbolic role as the god of the seas transcended simple mythology and became a metaphor for the uncontrollable and often contradictory nature of the world. Philosophically, Poseidon represents the deep and fundamental forces that lie at the heart of the universe. In the teachings of the ancient philosophers, nature was often viewed as a reflection of the divine order. The Greeks believed that the gods, including Poseidon, were not separate from nature, but were its very essence. In this view, Poseidon's power over the seas was not just a sign of his dominion over the natural world, but also a representation of the larger cosmic forces at play. The philosopher Plato, in his writings, often alluded to the idea that the natural world was governed by rational principles and divine order. However, he also acknowledged that certain aspects of life were governed by forces beyond human understanding, such as the unpredictability of the seas. Poseidon, in this sense, can be seen as a symbol of the mysterious and uncontrollable aspects of the world, forces that cannot be easily rationalized or subdued. In a world where order and reason were valued, Poseidon's domain over the sea reminded the Greeks of the presence of chaos and the unknown. forces that were beyond human comprehension but essential to the world's balance. Poseidon's role as a symbol of nature's power also ties into the ancient Greek understanding of divine justice. The Greeks believed that the gods had the power to intervene in the lives of mortals, often as a response to human actions. Poseidon's wrath, often portrayed in myths as the god's reaction to mortals who had angered him, symbolizes the idea that divine justice could come in the form of uncontrollable forces. When mortals failed to honor the gods or defied natural laws, they were often met with the destructive forces of nature: storms, floods, earthquakes, all manifestations of Poseidon's divine retribution. Yet, Poseidon's influence was not always negative. In many stories, he's portrayed as a protector and benefactor. Just as the sea could offer safety and nourishment, Poseidon could also offer blessings to those who respected his power. This dual aspect of Poseidon, both a god of destruction and creation, aligns with the Greek view of the gods as powerful but unpredictable beings who could be both benevolent and vengeful. In this way, Poseidon serves as a symbol of the divine forces that shape the world, forces that could bring both life and death, prosperity and ruin, depending on how they were treated. In later philosophical traditions, Poseidon's symbolic role continued to evolve. In Stoicism, for example, the Stoics taught that the universe was governed by natural laws, and that humans must live in harmony with these laws. Poseidon's control over the sea and the forces of nature could be seen as a metaphor for the Stoic belief in the importance of understanding and accepting the natural order. To the Stoics, the sea was both a symbol of the external forces that humans could not control and a reminder that peace and tranquility could only be achieved through acceptance of these forces. Similarly, in later philosophical traditions, Poseidon's power over the waters was sometimes interpreted as a representation of the unconscious mind, those deep, hidden aspects of human nature that are difficult to understand or control. The sea, like the unconscious, is vast, mysterious, and full of potential danger. In this interpretation, Poseidon's role as the god of the sea symbolizes the primal forces within human beings that are not always understood, but are always present, shaping human experience in ways that are often beyond reason or conscious control. In Christianity, Poseidon's legacy was less direct, but the sea and its power remained potent symbols. In Christian thought, the sea was often associated with chaos and evil, a force that needed to be tamed and controlled by divine power. The idea of the stormy sea was used to represent the trials and tribulations of life, and much like Poseidon, the Christian god was seen as having the power to calm the storms and bring peace. The symbolism of the sea in both religious traditions highlights the enduring influence of Poseidon's domain as a symbol of the uncontrollable forces that shape human existence. Even in modern times, Poseidon's symbolic significance has persisted. Environmental movements often use Poseidon's image as a symbol of the ocean's importance, particularly in efforts to raise awareness about the dangers of pollution, overfishing, and climate change. The sea, like Poseidon himself, is seen as a force of both creation and destruction, capable of sustaining life while also presenting great danger. Poseidon's image is invoked to remind people of the delicate balance between humanity and the natural world, and the need to respect and protect the oceans that sustain life on Earth. In art, literature, and even environmental activism, Poseidon's legacy lives on. he remains a symbol of the powerful, unpredictable forces of nature that continue to shape the world and human life. Whether as a symbol of divine power, natural law, or the raw, untamed forces of the sea, Poseidon's presence in modern culture reflects the timeless significance of the ocean and the forces that govern it. In the grand design of Greek mythology, the gods ruled over different domains that governed the natural and cosmic order. Poseidon, as the god of the sea, was not only a deity who wielded immense power over the oceans, but also a god who represented a larger cosmic force. His realm extended far beyond the waves, touching upon the very structure of the world itself and playing a pivotal role in the balance of the universe. Poseidon's dominion was a reflection of the ancient Greek understanding of the cosmos, an intricate web of divine influence where every force, every deity, and every element worked together to maintain harmony, chaos, and balance. Poseidon's cosmic role was intimately tied to his power over water and the earth. Water, in ancient Greek thought, was not just a physical substance, but also a vital force that connected all forms of life. The ocean, rivers, and lakes were the arteries of the world, nourishing both the physical world and the divine. As the god of water, Poseidon was the keeper of this life-sustaining power. Yet, like the ocean itself, Poseidon's rule was not always a peaceful one. His temper, which could mirror the chaos of the seas, was a reminder of the volatile forces at play within the cosmos. Poseidon's control over the seas made him a force that could either bring life or destroy it. He could calm the waters, allowing ships to sail smoothly across the oceans, or he could summon storms that would capsize even the most well-prepared vessels. This duality in Poseidon's power was a reflection of the ancient Greek understanding that the gods were not all good or all bad, but embodied a balance of forces. Poseidon was a god who, like the ocean itself, could be nurturing and life-giving, but also overwhelming and destructive when provoked. In the grand cosmic order, Poseidon also held sway over earthquakes, a reminder that the earth itself was in constant flux, shaped by the will of the gods. Earthquakes were seen as signs of Poseidon's anger, a violent shaking of the earth that could swallow cities and create chasms in the landscape. Poseidon's ability to cause earthquakes gave him dominion not just over the seas, but also over the physical structure of the world. His trident, which was his iconic weapon, symbolized this power to shape both land and sea, to bring forth life from the depths of the ocean and to reshape the very ground beneath one's feet. The Greeks saw Poseidon's power as essential to the balance of the natural world. Without the sea, life would be impossible. Without the ability to create and destroy, the world would be stagnant. Poseidon's role was one of constant motion, a god whose actions were both creative and destructive, reminding the ancient Greeks that the forces of nature were unpredictable and often beyond human control. In this way, Poseidon served as a reminder that the cosmos was not a fixed, unchanging place, but one that was in constant flux, shaped by the wills of the gods. Poseidon's cosmic influence also extended to the heavens. While Zeus, the king of the gods, ruled over the sky and the heavens, Poseidon's authority over the seas connected him to the very fabric of the world's structure. In the ancient Greek understanding of the cosmos, the earth was surrounded by water, and the sea was the boundary between the known world and the unknown. Poseidon, as the god of the seas, was a guardian of that boundary, a figure who bridged the mortal and divine worlds. His dominion over the waters meant that he had a stake in both the earthly realm and the celestial one. This connection to the heavens can be seen in Poseidon's role in various myths, particularly those involving his interactions with the other gods. In the Titanomachy, the great war between the Olympians and the Titans, Poseidon fought alongside his brothers Zeus and Hades to overthrow the Titans and reshape the cosmos. After their victory, the three brothers drew lots to divide the world. Poseidon, as a result, was granted dominion over the seas and the waters. However, his role in the Titanomachy highlights that his influence was not limited to the seas alone. Poseidon, like the other Olympians, had a hand in the shaping of the cosmos, determining the balance of power in the universe. Poseidon's power and influence also extended to the idea of fate and destiny. While Zeus was the ultimate ruler of the gods and Hades ruled over the dead, Poseidon's role in the balance of the cosmos was no less important. As the god of the seas and the earth's waters, Poseidon had the ability to shape the paths of mortals and gods alike. The ancient Greeks understood that Poseidon's favor could lead to success in both the physical and divine realms. To incur Poseidon's wrath, however, was to risk disaster, be it through shipwreck, earthquake, or the loss of one's livelihood. The sea, like Poseidon himself, was both a creator and a destroyer, and those who lived near its shores or depended on it for trade and sustenance knew well that its unpredictable nature could shape their fates. In the end, Poseidon's role in the cosmic order was a reflection of the Greek understanding of the interconnectedness of all things: earth, water, sky, and the divine. Poseidon, as the god of the sea, held sway over one of the most vital and mysterious forces in the world, and his power shaped the course of both mortal and divine affairs. His ability to create and destroy, to give life and take it away, was a reminder of the ever-changing nature of the world and the divine forces that governed it. As we reach the end of our journey through the myths and legacy of Poseidon, the god of the sea, we are reminded of his profound influence on both the ancient world and the modern imagination. Poseidon, in all his complexity, continues to symbolize the unpredictable and powerful forces of nature, the seas, the earth's waters, and the vast unknowns that still captivate our hearts and minds. From the calm and nurturing aspects of his realm to the fury of storms and earthquakes, Poseidon represents the delicate balance between creation and destruction. His mythological journey is one of power, pride, rivalry, and wisdom, a reminder that even the gods were at the mercy of the very forces they controlled. As a protector, a creator, and a force of nature, Poseidon's power transcends the myths in which he was born, reminding us that the natural world is full of awe and mystery, capable of both sustaining life and altering it in an instant. Poseidon's enduring legacy is felt today, not only in the art and literature that continue to draw inspiration from his stories, but also in the way we understand and respect the forces of nature. The ocean, like Poseidon, is both a place of wonder and a reminder of the fragility of life itself. In his myths, we see the power of the sea to shape destinies, change the course of history, and remind us of the forces beyond our control. Thank you for following along on this journey through Poseidon's mythic world. If you enjoyed this exploration of the god of the seas, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Let me know where you're listening from and what other mythological figures you'd like to hear about in future episodes. Until then, may the vast seas and the legacy of Poseidon remind you of the incredible, ever-present power of nature that connects us all. Poseidon's relationships with his fellow gods were central to the way in which he interacted with the world. As a member of the Olympian pantheon, Poseidon was part of a larger divine family that governed different aspects of the world. His relationship with his brothers, Zeus and Hades, was both cooperative and competitive, and it was these interactions that often shaped his role in Greek mythology. Poseidon's relationship with Zeus, in particular, was marked by a mixture of cooperation and rivalry. While they were brothers and shared the responsibility of ruling over the world, they each had their own distinct domains. Zeus ruled the heavens, Poseidon ruled the seas, and Hades ruled the underworld. The division of the cosmos was settled by drawing lots. And while this decision prevented direct conflict between the brothers, it also meant that Poseidon, as the god of the seas, was sometimes at odds with Zeus, the king of the gods. One of the most famous conflicts between Zeus and Poseidon occurred during the Trojan War. While Zeus was the ultimate arbiter of the war's outcome, Poseidon was initially supportive of the Greeks, seeing their cause as just. However, as the war progressed, Poseidon became disillusioned with Zeus' decisions, particularly regarding the fate of Troy. Poseidon's frustration with his brother led to him withdrawing his support for the Greeks and even sending storms to disrupt their efforts. This episode highlights the complexities of their relationship. While they were allies, they were also rivals, each seeking greater control over the world. In contrast to his sometimes strained relationship with Zeus, Poseidon had a much more harmonious bond with his brother Hades. The two gods ruled the realms of the earth, Poseidon over the waters and Hades over the underworld. And while they had different domains, they shared a mutual respect for each other's power. Hades, as the god of the dead, was more withdrawn from the affairs of mortals, while Poseidon's realm was often more active and dynamic. Despite this difference, Poseidon and Hades were allies in the fight against the Titans, and their shared experiences in the aftermath of the Titanomachy solidified their bond. Poseidon's relationships with the other gods were also influenced by his temperament. Known for his unpredictable and often stormy nature, Poseidon was sometimes seen as a god who acted on impulse. His actions were often driven by passion, whether in his rivalry with Zeus or in his various romantic escapades. Poseidon's character was defined by his intensity, and this sometimes put him at odds with other gods who were more measured or calculating in their approach to divine matters. Despite these conflicts, Poseidon's role as a protector of the natural world and a figure of great power ensured that he was always a central figure in the divine order. His relationships with the other gods were marked by moments of tension, but they were also characterized by mutual respect. Poseidon's power over the seas and the natural world made him indispensable to the balance of the cosmos, and his influence was felt in every corner of the divine realm.